texted to the other show and called her Tata, and I can't not laugh at that.
It's kind of demeaning, isn't it?
It was a typo.
Oh, yeah.
It's just a hilarious typo. And away we go, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome in the Rob Brown Show is on your radio. This is the Fan Upstate. How do you do? Upstate South Carolina. What is up, America? Hello, world. It is great to be with y'all one more time again right here on your home for sports in the Upstate. It is the Fan Upstate. I am Rob. Directly across from me on the other side of the metaphorical glass this morning, he is Colonel Grudge. Hashtag Dad Kicks, the professor of perfection, the wizard of wave, the sultan of swag. He is the great one. Lonzo is here as well. What's up, dog?
Hi, how are you today, Rob?
Well, thank you so much for asking.
You know, that is an awesome looking hockey jersey that you're wearing right now.
Yeah, rock the nerd shirt today.
You know, if you want to see the awesome looking hockey jersey and be jealous of it like I am, you can see it on Twitch, YouTube, Twitter, and what was the other one? Facebook. Yeah, that's it.
There you go. Facebook.com/TheFanUpstate.
You say them out of order, you forget stuff.
Twitter.com/TheUpstate, or subscribe to the Rob Brown Show on either Twitch or YouTube. And you can watch all 3 hours of the show live, have conversations with Lonzo and I and other members of the Rob Brown Armada off of the air as well. It's just like a virtual party.
All right. So during the break, can you do me a favor? Can you go on Facebook Live and go down and find someone who makes fun of nerds and just check them into a glass?
I would like to. I don't hate the plan. I just like my job and dislike conversations with HR. So,
well, we don't know who that. Well, actually, I do now. But anyway, I mean,
I will say one of my favorite things is being recognized as a well past his prime jock, and then hitting people out of the blue like, and also I play Dungeons and
Dragons. Go to B93. They're older. I know, because they're like, some of those guys are my age. You got a shot at it. Just go there. I would advise to not go to the Planet,
if you and
because
I
those are some large individuals.
If you and I had to fight the top two talents on any of our station, excluding WRD, what station do we have the best and worst chance against?
We're beating them all. See, I know you want me to go, well, you know.
I didn't say we wouldn't win. I said, what station will we do the worst against and the best against?
I think we'll struggle the most against the Rise guys because they're like me. Yeah. I know they are. They don't believe in a fair fight.
They're sturdy.
Well, they're also sturdy, but they don't believe in a fair fight. So if anything's not tied down, they're also a wrestling guy. So they'd be down for an all out, no holds barred. I think we're good against Rock 101. Yeah, I think we're fine against them. I hope he's listening, because it's basically one guy. Although I think the boss is still on there too. So it'd be
that's true.
It would be us against Mark and Stone Man.
Do you do the job against the boss though?
Well, you only got to take one guy out. So Stone Man would be the guy. Although, he's from Britain, so he might be a little feisty, and but I don't want to tangle with the boss. I think since you excluded Word, we got everybody else.
Yeah,
I think.
I think the Planet gives us the best shot. I think Rock right behind them. I think everybody else, it's clear cut.
It's also going to depend on who the Planet brings.
That's true. I did leave it open ended with top two talent. It's a tag team. Who's top two talent? Like, I would think for the Planet, Diesel's absolutely coming at you as their number one contender, right?
Yeah, but
number one contender.
but
He's the baddest dude.
I don't want to be
station,
critical here because we're not doing that anymore.
No.
Because you said top 2 talent and then you put him in there.
No, I'm talking about if we were making tag teams.
Okay, all right.
Most imposing on the other side. Diesel is easily the runaway winner.
I think we know who the top 2 talents are on that station, and they're on the air right now. So I mean, as far as listeners and all that kind of stuff goes. So Matt and 9, I think we're good because 9's getting older, doesn't move as well as he used to, and Matt Man lost a lot of weight.
He did.
He lost a lot of weight. So I mean, if we can take 9 out first, then me and you can, we got it.
And while we're on,
I'm old with bad knees though, and if they know that, then we got a problem.
While we're on the subject of random things that are completely subjective and we're just goofing off here to open our Thursday show because that's just what we do.
It's something also called cross promotion.
George Washington University, you'll remember, changed their name. George Washington University used to be the what were they that they changed? Do you remember?
No, I don't.
I don't either. What were they? They were the Colonials. They were the Colonials. And now they're not the Colonials anymore, and they just put out, George Washington University, the 10 names that they will select from to pick their new mascot. Lonzo, you ready for him?
Oh, I cannot wait for this.
Here are the top 10 George Washington, not Colonials, potential names moving forward. The George Washington University Ambassadors, the Blue Fog, the George Washington University Catalyst, the George Washington University Fireworks, the George Washington University Independence, the Monumentals, the Revolutionaries, the Sentinels, the Squad, or the Truth.
Yeah, go with the Squad. Do that.
Squad. Squad's like a name that's really kind of
but there's a famous the Squad in Washington, so I'm not sure that goes over well. Depending on which side of the aisle you're in, and I was just go. Why go revolutionists? Just go with the Revolution because it could be televised.
It's Revolutionaries, and I don't hate it. It's really the only one on this list that I'm like, all right. I mean, it's the thing. It's Independence, but it's not ENCE. It's INDEPENDENTS. Like the people that are independent.
Like Miss Independent?
Right.
So Kelly Clarkson.
Right.
Okay.
The Independents, the Revolutionaries are really the only two.
Yes, I threw out some Kelly Clarkson like you don't know.
I'm not mad about that.
Let's not talk about the listeners.
I don't understand why you would call yourself the Catalyst, right? That's a dumb name. And I'm not saying it's dumb because science words, obviously I think the Fusion is a great name for a team, right? You can cross over science dork stuff with sports all day. I'm in. But catalyst, do you know what a catalyst is? A catalyst is something that sparks or speeds up a reaction that is centered on other components. You're like, hey, we're the thing that make other things work.
Right. So if you put me in a room, I'm the catalyst to make it a great room.
Yeah, sure. Let's go with that.
So it's hypothetical.
The Ambassadors, I get it, because it's a DC thing. That's fine. The Blue Fog.
I think that's the most original out of all of them. I mean, the Blue Fog.
Yeah, but
before you come out on the court, you got blue fog. You got blue fog coming out, and you come out through the blue fog.
When you play us, you might bump into a wall that you vaguely can't see. Go Blue Fog.
And quite a few fog horror films. So I mean, you could think it that way.
It's not the fog that kills you in the horror films.
It's the team in it. Yeah, that's what I'm talking about.
Right, but they just are the Blue Fog. I don't like it. The fire. Well, let's be real. If I'm signing a college scholarship and they're like, hey, baby, you're a firework. Come on, show them what you're worth.
I was hoping you would go there.
Make them go, I'd be like, nah.
So we want Kelly Clarkson to Katy Perry. Who knows where we'll go before the segment's over?
I think I'll just pay my own way to be a literally anything else. Monumentals, like it's like right there on the edge. Sentinels is cool, but like the Sentinels are always the bad guys, right? Can you think of a single property where the Sentinels were the good guys? It's never happened.
No.
Never happened.
Well, so you don't want to be the
bad
good
guy in the X-Men, bad guy in No Man's Sky. They're always the bad guys.
Say hello to the bad guy. I mean,
Squad is like when you see a 65-year-old man be like, that's lit, bro. You're like, dude, that's not for you. That's not for you.
Why do they have to be Italian wearing a tracksuit when they say that?
No, squad's a young dudes. Like squad is what they say instead of team nowadays. Like you got to roll with the squad together.
So
squad is so new age contemporary that I feel uncomfortable saying it. I'm only 38.
What if I am talking about the Toon Squad?
I mean, that's still using squad as team. I don't know. Like
that's what they were called was the Toon Squad.
I'm also thinking of this as the in-arena announcer who's entering bringing the team onto the court. And now the starting lineup for your George Washington University squad. Dad, yes, they just are. They're the squad. We're introducing the squad. Here comes the squad. I don't love it. Truth is hilarious. Who put this list together? Like, really, who put this list together? I hate it. All right, let's get to some sports, ladies and gentlemen. We got a lot of it to get through on the show today. It's Thursday, and you know what that means. Coming up at 11:20 this a.m., and it's time for Fight Club with Lonzo. And there is no shortage of pro wrestling stuff to get through, but we'll see if Lonzo has included any MMA, any UFC on the rundown as well, because we're kind of right in this interesting spot where the UFC knows that its number one opposition, football, has gone away, so they're going to start building some cards that might be worth attention.
It's funny you should say that, because I have a question for you in the Fight Club about the UFC card this weekend and what it's going up against and which one you're watching.
I shall answer it. That is at 11:20. Coming up here in about a half an hour from right now, Rashad Beard of the Panther Nation podcast is going to join us. We have had a lot of Panther talk on the show this week, and it's going to continue as the QB carousel turns.
Rashad's going to come on here with news that they have an offensive coordinator.
We'll see. Last week he called, or 2 weeks ago, called the shot via his sources perfectly.
He did.
Nailed it. So we'll see if Rashad's got any #sources he can drop on us today.
I just put pressure on him,
We'll see what kind of performance Rashad brings to the show. That's going to be in about half an hour. Also coming up on the radio show today, the Clemson basketball team. I called them out yesterday. I said, look, you got Florida State. That's a bad team. You got them at Little John in the house on Camp I tomorrow. Can you get it done? Can you bump yourself back up off the bubble and in to a tournament seed? And not only did they do that, but they dropped them by 40 points. 92-52, your final in that one. Did that do enough? I said yesterday, ugly L's hurt you more than decent dubs help you. And at this point, the last thing Clemson can do is win the two remaining games they're not supposed to win, Miami and Virginia, and beat the hell out of the teams that they are supposed to beat, including Florida State last night. Well, mission accomplished. Brad Brownell was listening to the show, and the Tigers came out yesterday and just absolutely destroyed Leonard Hamilton's Seminoles of Florida State. Was it enough for the Tigers to get off the bubble and get back into the tournament conversation? I will answer that question later on in the show. The front row is set for this Sunday's running of the Great American Race, the Daytona 500. We have our pole, we have our front row, and tonight we run the dual 150 qualifiers. Travis Pastrana tried to qualify. Jimmy Johnson, 7-time, is back in the field. Can he get qualified? We're going to talk about that coming up a little while later on the radio broadcast. Bill Connolly of ESPN has put out his ceiling and roof predictions for college football's top 25. He has put out the best he thinks every team can be and the worst he thinks every team can be. I'm going to give you the rundown for Clemson and South Carolina and the rest of the teams in the ACC and SEC they'll be lining up against. And we will see if you guys like the under or the over for the ceiling and roof of the top 25 college football teams coming up in the 2023 season from Bill Connolly later on in the show.
I'm confused. I thought the roof was the ceiling.
What'd I say? Ceiling and the roof?
No. That's what Michael Jordan said, didn't he? So it's got to be true.
No, the ceiling is the floor. The floor is the ceiling is the floor.
No, the floor is lava.
Right, but so the ceiling is lava because the ceiling is the floor?
If you're upside down.
So in Australia, the ceiling is the floor and the ceiling is lava.
Absolutely.
Got it.
And it drips.
We will see what Bill Connolly said for Clemson and South Carolina and their best and worst possible win projections. I'll give you those later on in the show. We'll see if you agree with it. Is it too early to put in a bet on the 2023 National Football League MVP award? Because Vegas has just dropped their odds for both your Super Bowl champion in 2023 and your National Football League MVP. Where does Patrick Mahomes line up in the quest for a two-peat?
I can't wait to see where the narrative is being written this year.
We will find it. And by the way, real quick, this is really more for Lonzo than for y'all, the listening audience, but you know how we've been going back and forth on the nobody thought Kansas City could do it this year. I got bored last night, so I went and looked up the Vegas odds-ons to win the Super Bowl for this past season. Vegas was the third shortest odds, and they were like 25 points behind Tampa Bay.
By the way, I wasn't talking about Vegas. Vegas is accurate. ESPN, Fox, CBS, some of those guys on TV were not very favorable towards Kansas City. And Kansas City heard it. I sent you a video earlier from Travis Kelce. You probably didn't watch it. I sent it to you like at 6 a.m. And
yeah, I saw that. Why?
If you watched it, you'd know why I sent it to you. He was discussing that very thing that you are talking about right now.
I will watch it, but it was his claim that started this whole thing. I don't need to hear that Kelce still thinks nobody believes the Chiefs can do it.
All right, so
does he have examples?
He has.
Does he call people out?
He has an explanation and examples, and I just think I knew you wouldn't watch it.
Okay. No, I haven't watched it because you sent it to me at 6 a.m.
Told you I had a rough night.
Let's take a break. Coming up on the radio broadcast. In fact, what do you say we come out of the gate with a little college football, right? We got Panther talk to end this hour. We got wrestling and MMA coming up at the beginning of the 11 o'clock hour. Let's get a little college football. Bill Connolly of ESPN has put out his ceiling and his floor for the top 25 teams in NCAA college football. We'll take a look at where he has Clemson. We'll take a look at where he has South Carolina and see if you guys agree or disagree with the ceilings and floors of the Tigers and the Gamecocks. And we'll do that next. I am Rob Brown. He is the great one, Lonzo. And ladies and gentlemen, you are listening to the Rob Brown Show. You're listening to the Fan Upstate. What's cracking? What's cracking?
So make sure you're in the room for the end of the break because I'm playing the thing from yesterday as I was told to do by the boss, and you haven't heard it yet.
I haven't heard it. Which one that got Chris's?
No.
Mine?
Yes. Last I checked, this is the Rob Brown Show. I mean, you know.
Eat me, baby.
And by the way, Kevin, I just want to say we said in the building. So all those names that you're throwing out, we weren't talking to those people or about those people. We're talking about in the building. No other radio stations exist outside of this building. Go team.
Off every door. Just text energy to 200-300 for your free consultation on top quality affordable windows or patio doors for $0 down, 0 payments, and 0 interest for a year. That's right. You don't pay a dime for an entire year. Plus save $359 off every window and $887 off every door. But hurry, these big dollar savings end this month. Text energy to 200-300 right now. Text the word energy to 200-300. Don't wait. Text energy to 200-300.
If you own a business, this has been a bumpy ride. From pandemic to inflation, I'm sure you could use a break. If your business has 5 or more employees since 5/20, you might be eligible to receive a payroll tax refund of up to $10,000 per employee. Challenge is getting your hands on it. Hi, I'm Howard.
So did you put that image up or someone else?
Do what?
The NFL thing? The holding thing?
On the Facebook?
Yes.
Yeah, I'm tagged at the bottom of it. So I was listening to the Rob Brown Show today.
Oh, there it is. Okay. You know, I don't read everything. I just read part of the way down. Yes, I will be there at 7:10, Stephen. I think you missed the point, Kevin.
My God.
When I said there are no other radio stations outside of this building, it's not jealousy. They just don't exist.
It's a fact.
The money, the ratings, everything's right here. I mean, you know. And I'm sure those people you're talking about would say the same exact thing because that's what we're supposed to say. But I mean it. I hope my head gets worse before tonight for the movie theater because I'm sure this is a really quiet movie. No loud booms or anything. I should be, you know, low key should be good.
Sponsored by Taco Bell. The new crispy melt taco is now at Taco Bell. It's a freshly fried shell with a melty cheese blend and your choice of seasoned beef or black beans inside. Try it today. Participate in Taco Bell locations for limited time only. While supplies last. Contact local stores for prices, hours, and participation which vary. Tax extra.
Now, CBS Sports Radio.
On your radio at 97.7 FM, 1330 AM, Greenville, 97.1 FM, 950 AM, Spartanburg.
Listen on your phone. Download the Odyssey app and search the Fan Upstate.
There's a whole lot more to know about sound if you really want to go into the subject.
Your smart speaker. Just say play 97 The Fan Upstate. On your HD radio at WFBC HD3. Just one more time. And on your computer at
FanUpstate.com.
You ever wanted to wake up in your Montana ranch to the smell of gunpowder, bacon, and the sounds of your kids playing in the mud? At Wild Child's Truck Dealership, we exist for you, man. Raptors, TRXs, and Shelbys. You need to drive your child who split his arm open from wrestling down a wild coyote? You drive a truck from Wild Child's. You need to drive your wife who's given birth to your 14th child to the hospital? You drive Wild Child's. Look, I get it. You want to be able to load all 29 boxes of ammo and 55 rifles into the truck? Yeah, our trucks are massive. So get ready to jumble down to the dealership, guns blazing, and country music blaring until your speakers blow out. We're at 314 Rumble Road in Yellowstone, Wyoming, right next to the Whole Foods. Because screw them, we got your back, man. We're proud of you. WildChildMonsters.com. Let's get it.
Listen on the other fan upstate.
So before one of you inevitably texts me, what the hell was that, man? What was that? There is part of me, Lonzo, that just doesn't want to say anything about it.
Yeah, I mean, you could have kept going.
I have to. It's too good.
You need to give credit to some.
I do.
Yeah, that's why you need to talk about it.
Yesterday afternoon, yesterday during the show, we got a text from the boss to say, when you guys get off the air, can you come downstairs? There is a group of students from Clemson that are taking a course learning about radio and every aspect of it. And we would like you guys to come down, talk with them, answer some questions, and help them record some demo spots. They wrote up some commercials. They wrote up some commercials to kind of get a feel for what it's like to create copy, work with talent to produce copy, see how the things are recorded and edited and put together and all that. And I was like, yeah, man, like one of my favorite things about this job is mentoring kids who want to get into this game and making sure they know, hey, it's a tough game to get into. It's a tough game to stay in, but if you do, it's very rewarding. So they came in, and one of the kids by the name of, I think Hayden was his name.
I believe it was Harrison.
That's right. Harrison came in and wrote that copy. So they all wrote different copy. One of them wrote like a very, very nice, elegant, kind of classy commercial for iPads.
See, what we got out of the four of them were four different styles of commercials, and I thought that was really cool. One was a testimonial about Diet Dr. Pepper. One was a 15-second spot about the iPad, I believe.
Yep.
And so it was four different styles of commercials, because if you listen to spots, they're not all the same. They're different kinds, and different things grab you when you're listening to make you go, "Ooh, yeah, I may want to buy some of that."
So Harrison rolled up with that ad for a fake truck dealership in Montana, and the big boss downstairs was like, "I'm gonna have the kids record their own commercial." I was like, "Yeah, for sure, absolutely." And then he read his, and I was like, "Give me a mic. I want to crack at that. I want to crack at that." And that's what it turned into. And we told them we would play it on the air so they could get an air check of what their commercials sounded like over the radio.
See, you're saying that, but I was given a directive. I've never been given a directive to play a parody spot on the air before from the big boss downstairs. So it's like, yeah, I'll make sure I get that in the first break.
Man, I loved it. It was great. It was hilarious. It was well written, and we had a blast recording it. So anyway, they were working. They are doing a mentorship with the South Carolina Broadcasters Association, of course, of which Lonzo and I won the 2021-22 Sports Talk Radio Show of the Year award. And they asked for some help, and I was like, hell yeah. And we get a hilarious parody commercial out of it. Let's go.
Yeah, it was so good that everyone down there recorded except for
me.
Except for me. I didn't get my shot at it, but I'd have killed it, but it would have been, too much Pickens County probably. So
just screw them, man.
Chris did a really good version, but he did Eli Wallach, and no one knew who that was in the room except for probably me and Steve. Do you know who it is?
I don't.
He's a old time, is a dude in a bunch of westerns back.
I got.
Or was it Jack Palance? It was one of the other.
I got rip off Clint Eastwood vibes out of it. Like rip off old, like dollar store Clint Eastwood vibes.
Well, they all talked that way back then.
Ding. It was great. All right.
At least he didn't go with Cookie the Cook.
Let's get Bill Connolly's ceilings and floors in. He put together a list of the top 25 teams in college football, and he put together what he thinks the best and worst finishes would be. Now, I'm going to tell you that I kind of don't love him, because he's like, well, they'll only be, 12-0 or 9-3. And it's like, yeah, I mean, that's pretty wide open, but he gave some reasons. So we'll run with it.
They might win, but they also
might not.
They also might lose.
Right.
So there's that.
So here's what Connolly put together. I'm interested in your thoughts on him. And I think I might do this on my own. I might do my own version of this maybe later during the offseason. Connolly starts, obviously, with the number 1 ranked team in the country. Your reigning, defending, undisputed college football national champions. That, of course, is the Georgia Bulldogs. And he said that the best Georgia will finish, this is regular season records only, is 12-0. But he thinks there's also the potential that they could go 9-3. His reasoning, Stetson Bennett is gone, and they've got a decision to make. They got 3 guys in the mix right now that could take over as the starter under center. Junior Carson Beck, sophomore Brock Vandegrift, or redshirt freshman Gunnar Stockton. Hey, look who's back in a blast from the past. Gunnar Stockton, man.
Do it, Gunnar.
There was a point when Gunnar Stockton was like the best recruit of all time. Remember that? Like everybody wanted some Gunnar Stockton.
I do recall that. Georgia also, didn't they just lose their offensive coordinator?
They sure did, who is now on his way to the National Football League.
Didn't they bring up a guy who's done it before?
Mike Bobo.
But how successful was Bobo? I don't recall.
Bobo's been wildly hit or miss.
Yeah.
Wildly hit or miss. But I also think
so he has to help pick
who the starting quarterback is.
Yeah.
Mike Bobo is, Mike Bobo, by the way, has also been the offensive coordinator at Georgia before. It's not his first time in this exact role. But the Dogs do bring back Brock Bowers. Ladd McConkey is going to be back as well. They're bringing back 3 of their starting offensive linemen and the majority of last year's starting defense. This team, if they figure out their quarterback, is going to be very, very good. Again, I got no problem with 12-0. I do not see a 9-3 season for the Bulldogs next year. This team at its very worst will be 11-1, regardless of quarterback. They got too much talent everywhere not to just simply run and defend their way.
They absolutely would have had a loss this year if Ohio State had a kicker that didn't kick the worst. It's the worst kick in the history of mankind.
Ladies and gentlemen, if you got any food that needs some seasoning, Lonzo's got the salt. Speaking of your Buckeyes, Lonzo, Bill Connolly's got them with a ceiling of 12-0 and a floor of 9-3. He says that Ohio State is also going to be in a spot where it's going to very largely fall on their quarterback. They've got junior Kyle McCord or redshirt freshman Devin Brown, both lined up for their crack to take over for C.J. Stroud. Both of them were top 100 recruits. They are likely to have the best wide receiver core in college football, with Marvin Harrison Jr. returning. Emeka Egbuka will be returning as well. Trevion Henderson and Mayan Williams will all return for the Buckeyes as well. But maybe more importantly, with a number of returners at starting positions across the defense, second-year defensive coordinator Jim Knowles is going to have a little bit more familiarity in his second year as the OSU DC. I'm going to go ahead and call the shot now. I think Georgia absolutely is the odds-on favorite going into the 2023 season. If this Ohio State team does anything short of make the playoffs, it will be the biggest disappointment in Buckeye history.
It is kind of odd that both teams don't have their starting quarterback yet. And I know we haven't even spring game hasn't happened. No, I get it. But they both have had established quarterbacks going into last year. Ohio State has usually done pretty well with whoever's next. So I'm not completely concerned about that. The fact that you said Georgia has 3 or 4 guys vying for the
quarterback job. Yeah, there's really 2 at Buckeye Land. We'll see. Number 3, he's got the Michigan Wolverines. He's got them with a ceiling of 12-0 and a floor of 9-3. And he says the biggest concern for Michigan, much as it was against TCU, is that they were just not very good against a pass-heavy offense this year. You think about what TCU did to Michigan. Keep in mind, TCU did not have their best passing day against Michigan. They were also able to run the ball successfully. But the fact that TCU was such a threat to throw, that Michigan really couldn't do a whole heck of a lot against the run for fear of getting roasted, toasted, and burnt to a crisp. They're going to be up against some high-flying offenses, specifically later in the season. I think Michigan is going to be a good team this year, but I do think Ohio State's better. And I think this year you get a little separation between the two.
I thought Ohio State was better last year, but we saw it happen.
True. Fair enough.
I mean, you know.
At number 4, and this is where it starts to get interesting. This is where I'm looking for your reaction. And we'll do about 10 of these, and then we'll have to get to Rashad, and then maybe we'll bring it back for the next hour of the show. At number 4, Lonzo, this is where he starts listing teams that he believes the ceiling drops a game. The teams from here on out are at best 11-1. At number 4, he's got the Florida State Seminoles. He's got them with a ceiling of 11-1 and a floor of 8-4. And he says the most interesting thing about this team, a team that finished the season on a 6-game win streak and has more guys coming back than almost any other school and had arguably the best transfer portal incoming class in the country, says Bill Connolly. He says that Florida State's biggest problem is that they are on the road against both Clemson and Florida this year, and they open against a good LSU team. He also says, as I do, that Florida State is probably the biggest threat to Clemson's ACC dominance in a number of years, and that they will likely get Clemson a second time in the ACC championship game in Charlotte now that the divisions are officially gone. He says that with the production that they brought in, it is going to be Florida State threatening Clemson, therefore catching the best shots of everybody on the schedule. And with roadies to Clemson in Florida and a neutral site game against LSU to open the season, he thinks the Noles can be 11-1 and playing for an ACC title and potentially a playoff spot as soon as this year.
All right, I'm not buying it till I see it. And I hope it's true. But for now, as I've been saying all along, it's Clemson and no one else. And can't beat Clemson Cade.
We will be checking in with Zoe on that prediction in about 10 months, ladies.
Man, I hope I'm wrong.
About 10 months. He's got at number 5, the Alabama Crimson Tide. He's got them with a ceiling of 11-1 and a floor of 8-4. He says that the biggest variable for Alabama is the opposite of Florida State. He said Florida State's biggest strength is the fact that they are rolling in a lot of starters from last year. Alabama, the exact opposite. They are losing a lot. Bryce Young is gone. Will Anderson is gone. Both going to be top 10 picks. They have lost both coordinators, with Tommy Rees and Kevin Steele stepping in to take over those spots. They do not have anything working right now. There's no transfer quarterbacks coming in, which means that they have got a lot of unexperienced young guys taking over the quarterback and doing so in the final year of the SEC West, meaning it is going to be the final permanent crack of a handful of rivals at the Crimson Tide before they switch to the 3 permanent rival 6-6 schedule setup. Alabama, I absolutely think, Lonzo, is eating an L this year. I think they might very well eat 2 this year. I do not think Alabama is a playoff team coming up this year. I think they are in trouble with the amount of turnover they have.
They've had this much turnover before, though, haven't they?
I don't know that they've had this much.
They have a ton of guys going to the NFL every single year, and they seem to reload. So you're saying Alabama's on the decline. This is it. They're done.
No, I'm not saying they're done, but I am saying it's a down year. I'm absolutely saying it's a down year. And we will take a break here at number 6 with the Penn State Nittany Lions. He's got them ranked number 6 with a ceiling of 11-1 and a floor of 8-4. Why? Because they don't know what their quarterback situation is going to look like either. Sean Clifford went 11-2. It was a good year. He is gone. Drew Allar is going to step in. They've got a very good backfield with Nicholas Singleton and Katron Allen lining up behind a very good and predominantly veteran offensive line. But we've seen a lot of quarterbacks who have the hype of a 5-star Drew Allar who show up and then they just wilt away. James Franklin and his Nittany Lions have Ohio State on the schedule. They've got Michigan on the schedule. They have lost 4 in a row to those two teams. Can they turn it around, or will they just miss the playoffs? When we come back, we'll get to USC, LSU, Oregon, Tennessee, and Clemson and continue talking about that. But next up on the show, Rashad Beard is the host of the Panther Nation podcast. We'll talk silver and blue football with Rashad when we come back on the Rob Brown Show in the Fan Upstate.
Sports update on the Fan Upstate. NASCAR qualifying for the Daytona 500 took place on Wednesday night. Now it's moment.
Oh, got the roll.
Alongside will be Hendrick Motorsports teammate Kyle Larson. The rest of the running order.
Rashad, what's up, big dog? How we doing, man?
Good.
Glad to hear it. Sorry about last week. Lonzo and I got late Wednesday night, got our pod canceled and a bunch of stuff, and we were having to scramble some stuff, and I just got caught up, so that's my bad, but we're glad to have you back, fella.
All good, man.
Mahomes hitting the porta potty at the victory parade and getting a standing ovation coming out of a porta potty. That's amazing. Sports fans are the best and the weirdest. Also love T. Kelsey banging down shots of Fireball on the float.
It's a sponsor for his podcast.
I don't care what it's for.
He's obligated to do it, I'm sure.
Fireball is gross, though.
I don't drink, so I don't know.
I don't mind my guy.
I'm not a big cinnamon fan anyway. I'm all right with it every once in a while.
Awful.
You could sprinkle some cinnamon on my hot cocoa. That's about it. You call it hot chocolate or hot cocoa?
It's hot chocolate.
Okay, because I'd call it hot chocolate too. I was just Rashad. Would you call it hot chocolate or hot cocoa?
Yeah, hot chocolate, man.
Where do they call it hot cocoa? Is that like Northeast or something? I don't know. Is it one of those only rich people call it cocoa?
I honestly, I don't think I know anybody who calls it cocoa.
Well, someone does, or it wouldn't be out
I'm
there.
sure. I just haven't heard anybody do it. I will, however, tell you, and by you, I mean everybody except Lonzo, that Kahlua in hot chocolate remains undefeated.
Once again, foreign language that I don't understand.
That's why I said everybody but Lonzo.
Yeah. So is that obviously some sort of alcohol, but what kind of alcohol is it?
It is an Irish cream liqueur.
All right, what's the difference between liquor and liqueur?
How fancy you are when you drink it. If you drink it with your pinky out, it's a liqueur.
Oh, okay.
The honest answer to that is, as many times as I've seen it called that, I don't know. Difference between liquor and
I was going to drop a better off dead quote, but I knew I'd be the only one that would know it.
So a liqueur,
make something up. Ain't nobody going to know.
No, I'm not going to. I don't like to make stuff up. I like to know what I'm talking about. Shad's got some new threads on today.
Nah, same old stuff, man.
I don't think I've seen that one before.
I don't think I've seen that either. I was trying to see what the hell.
It's a Hornet shirt.
Still wearing Hornets gear. That's a damn fan right there.
Hometown guy, man. You got to roll with him no matter what.
I get it. All right, let's make some radio, boys. The Rob Brown Show is back on your radio. This is the Fan Upstate. It's Thursday, which means it's time to talk Panther football with my guy, Rashad Beard. He is the host of the Panther Nation podcast, which you can follow on Twitter at Panther Nation PC. But more importantly, find them on YouTube. Hit that old subscribe and follow and alert. Just do all the buttons and make sure you are up to date constantly on everything going on with the Carolina Panthers. Rashad joins us one more time again. What's up, young man?
What's going on, guys? All is well over here. All is well. No complaints.
Glad to hear. Let's jump into it. First and foremost, last time we talked to you, we were waiting on a DC. Since then, we have got Ejiro Evero in the fold. He comes over from Denver, where he was in charge of his first defense as a coordinator, but that defense was pretty good. The offense was an absolute disaster under Nathaniel Hackett. It was the defense that carried Denver to the number of wins they were able to get before they let Hackett go. I like this hire, Rashad, in that you've got a young guy, you've got a guy who is kind of in touch with the way the NFL and its players work and communicate nowadays. The only concern I have with this hire is that Ejiro Evero being one of, I think, only 2, maybe 3 candidates that interviewed for every open head coaching position. You probably got him for a year. Before he moves on. But the good news is, with the dumpster fire that is our division, 1 year might be enough to get a divisional crown and kind of establish yourself as the team in the NFC South.
Yeah, I mean, that's an interesting way to look at it. The 1 year thing. This is the biggest concern I had with hiring an offensive guy, and come to find out it's a problem with the defensive guy, because he is a hot commodity, did interview for all the positions or all the head coaching jobs. And you're right. If all goes well with Carolina, as we think, then it could likely be that we only have him for 1 year. The good news is that we have a guy like Dom Capers, who was also hired with, that he was with Denver as well, who is his kind of senior assistant. And so I think that hopefully there's going to be a little bit of continuity. I'm hoping that he doesn't get plucked from us. That wouldn't be a good look. And I'm hoping that we would take advantage of the 2. Well, if we could, if he stays for 2 years, then we would take advantage of the getting the draft picks for him being elevated to head coach, which in turn give us draft picks. So I'm hoping he stays at least 2 years. That would be the best case scenario. But the great news is I think defensive guys are easy to replace than offensive guys. That's just my opinion. But there is no fact behind that.
Rashad Beard joining us here on the show. I'm glad you mentioned Dom Capers, because one of the things that I have genuinely appreciated about the short so far tenure of Frank Reich, he told us when he did the intro presser, I don't want to bring in a bunch of my guys that I've coached with before to be yes men, and I want to have a diverse staff. I want to have guys from all backgrounds, all walks, so that we have a wide school of thought in the building. Taking a guy like Ejiro Evero, a young guy, 1 year as a DC, moving him over, and then giving him a guy like Dom Capers, who has been in the league for damn near as long as I have been on this planet, to kind of serve as both a mentor and maybe also kind of an alternative viewpoint for Frank Reich to take in when he's making decisions. I think Reich has pretty much stuck to what he said he was going to do in his intro press conference, and I think it's a great start to rounding out the staff.
Yeah, I think this staff, if you look at what's going on with this staff, I mean, I dare I say we might have the best staff on paper in the league. The staff is ridiculous with the amount of experience that they have. I mean, you're talking about Dom Capers. You might as well turn back the clock. We might as well go back to the throwback logo. because we got Dom Capers back, who was our first head coach. Reich was our first quarterback. We might as well go back to the old logo, old uniforms, and bring back the throwbacks because it's looking good here in Carolina. I'm excited with the staff. I mean, we didn't talk about Jim Caldwell as having him on the staff is ridiculous. And if you look at the staff from top to bottom, look at the amount of Super Bowl rings that these guys have. There aren't too many guys on the staff that don't have a ring on their finger, which is important. And I'm not talking about married. I'm talking about Super Bowl champions. Okay, these guys have been there. They've done that. And that's what we need. We need that experience on this roster to show. And we've got a young core, a young group of guys. And if they get, in touch with these guys and they accept the coaching, all right, we were all upset with Wilkes, but I don't think any of these players are mad at some of these coaches that we're bringing in. I mean, it's a top tier caliber coaching staff, and on paper, easily the best coaching staff in the division. Can we see it equate to wins? That's what we're going to have to see coming season.
Rashad Beard joining us here on the Rob Brown Show. So we've really got, in my opinion, Rashad, you got a quarterback coach. We talked about him when he got brought on. I love Deuce Staley paired up with McCown. I think you've got really kind of both ends of the spectrum. You've got the kind of headstrong football student in McCown. On the other hand, you got Deuce Staley, who's the dude that we are going to see running up and down the sidelines, just slapping dudes in the head.
Love it.
I love the mix, but we still got to find the guy to be the OC. And I honestly have been working on the assumption that this is going to be the position that takes the longest to fill, predominantly because Frank Reich kind of is his own OC, or at least views himself that way. So whoever he's going to bring in, it's got to be somebody that he looks at and goes, this guy can either run an offense or I can run the offense, and I know this guy's input is going to be massively valuable to me. Now, that might make the job a little less attractive to some people, right? I mean, I look at, for instance, what's happening with Eric Bieniemy. We talked about the factors that have kept EB from getting a big job, and I think it is a little bit of prejudice racism at the top of the NFL. I think that is there's probably some smoke to the reports that he's a bad interview. But the biggest factor, I think, is that Andy Reid calls the plays, and we all know that. If you're an OC, go into a place like Carolina where Frank Reich is known as his own play caller, maybe makes that job a little bit less attractive. What's your read on why there's not an OC announced yet?
Yeah, I think that this is a little bit, I think you're absolutely right in your assessment that a lot of people may not want to come here due to the fact that Reich may play the calls. I mean, but at the same time, he's also been on record saying that, hey, depending on the guy, I'll hand over the duties, right? I'll hand over the play calling duties depending on who that person is. I think it's taken long, partially because I think we had our eye on Brian Johnson, and we were waiting for the Super Bowl to end and try to get a hold of him. Now, with Steichen taking the coach job and potentially Brian Johnson getting elevated to offensive coordinator for the Eagles, he may be less likely to come here. But I think I'm not so concerned with the offensive coordinator. I know it's weird. But I'm not too concerned about who is the pseudo offensive coordinator because Wright has the ability to call plays. I'm less concerned about it. I wouldn't mind. I know we're on record talking about Jim Bob Cooter, and we're talking about Thomas Brown. You got to
say it the right way, Rashad. You got to say it. You got to do it, man.
I can't do it with the twang, man. It's not
Jim Bob Cooter.
Come on, Jim Bob Cooter.
I can't do it. But I know we talked to him. And I think we're interviewing Thomas Brown, who is the assistant head coach of the LA Rams today. So I think that you'll hear an offensive coordinator announcement here pretty soon. I would think it'd be wrapped up by the end of the week. Thomas Brown is intriguing coming from that McVay system. You got to love McVay and whatever they've done over in LA. I know they had a bad year last year, but the history has proven that they've been able to put together some solid offenses. So I love that hire, and tight ends, right? He's a tight ends coach as well. Lord knows if you looked at the Super Bowl, tight end play is definitely critical. So we need a good tight end. I think Thomas Brown could help us improve our tight end play, and Jim Bob Cooter as well. I think he has a connection to Jim Caldwell, right, going back to the line. So that's something to watch as well. So you can't go wrong with either one of those guys. Those are the only two guys on record that we've interviewed. So I have to think it'd be one of those guys. So, and I wouldn't be mad at either one.
All right. We got to run to a break. Rashad, here a question. Can you stick with us on the stream only for like 6 more minutes? Because I got one more thing I want to ask you, and we're going to make it a stream exclusive. So we're going to continue this conversation with Rashad Beard on the stream at facebook.com/thefanupstate, twitter.com/thefanupstate, or search and subscribe to The Rob Brown Show on Twitch or YouTube. We'll continue the conversation with Rashad there. And the rest of you on the radio, we'll be back in about 5 minutes right here on The Rob Brown Show and the Fan Upstate. All right, so I kind of wanted to save the quarterback thing when we get closer to the draft, but we got the free agent quarterback stuff that's kind of circulating around. I know that Lonzo's on board for selling the farm to go get C.J. Stroud with either the number 1 or over 2. Honestly, I think you could trade to 2, though I don't think Houston's coming off of it, so you got to go to 1. I know you have been very much anti bringing in a vet quarterback, like let's get a guy and build him up from the ground up. I asked our listeners the other day to prioritize the guys that are available. Stroud, Young, Levis, Richardson out of the draft. Carr, Garoppolo is a free agent. Rodgers, Lamar Jackson is a trade. Considering what the cost of each of them is going to be, Lamar's going to have to be given a Deshaun caliber contract. Rodgers is going to get a big deal, and also you probably got him for 2 years. Carr and Garoppolo getting more cap-friendly contracts, but obviously there's questions about what they can do. And then the risk of a guy out of the draft. What would be the ranking of the quarterbacks? Like, what order of availability would you want out of those guys?
Yeah, I think that for me, and when you look at it from a team-building standpoint, you got to go get Stroud. I think he's number 1. Whatever it takes.
Willing to sell the farm for him.
I'm all in because I think the team is primed and ready for it. This is not like in the years past where the offensive line wasn't ready. The defense was. It's prime time for us to go and get a young quarterback. So when I look at it from a team building standpoint, I get him on a rookie deal for the next 4 years plus the 5th-year option. That's the optimal way to do it. Now, next after that, I try my best to get Lamar Jackson. Lamar is close number 2. You don't get players of his caliber come across, so you got to get him if that opportunity presents itself. I don't want Carr. I don't want Garoppolo. Those type of guys will get you. I think they'll get you to the playoffs. Don't get me wrong, but I'm not looking at a 1-year thing. I need to look at the future, and I feel like Lamar Jackson, if I'm going to pay him $40+ million, he's going to help me dominate for the next however long he's here. Those other guys, they're bridge guys in my brain. I'm done building bridges. Like we built the bridge to nowhere with all the quarterbacks that we played with. So I'm done with those guys. Let's get a real quarterback in here, one that can get us to a Super Bowl. I feel like Garoppolo he's done it with all things great around him. I don't think he's going to have that with Carolina. I think we're building to that, but I don't think he's going to have that level of.
You just said we're primed.
I did, but I don't think we're as good. We're going to be as good as the 49ers off the rip. Like I don't think that's going to be the case. I think year 2, year 3 we'll get there, but I don't think I don't want any more rentals. Get me the guy. Get me Stroud. I think Stroud is the guy moving forward, and that's who I want. Everything for Stroud.
Yeah, he didn't want you to say all that. He didn't want you to be on my side with that.
I want everybody's input. All right, if the Packers do put Rodgers on the trade block and he comes cheaper than Lamar Jackson, you willing to take that gamble?
I probably would take Rodgers as well. Yeah, I mean it's tough. I mean, Rodgers is great, man. I can't. That's tough. I don't see that happening.
Right.
So I kind of haven't processed that yet, but Rodgers is great. Now I probably would take Rodgers as well. He's in that Lamar Jackson range for me.
Fair enough. Rashad Beard, host of the Panther Nation podcast. Find him on YouTube. Appreciate you, big dog. We'll talk next week.
Yeah, man.
And I bet we'll be talking quarterbacks because everything else will be rounded out by then.
Hope so.
Yep. Let's do it.
You got it. There you go. Y'all follow him on Twitter at Panther Nation PC. Talk to you next week, brother.
Absolutely, man. Appreciate you guys.
See ya. There you go, ladies and gentlemen. That is Rashad Beard. Yeah, Rodgers is a rental, but if I get the chance to rent a Lamborghini, I'm gonna do it, even if it's not my permanent car. I still want the chance to drive it, right?
I'm not renting a Lamborghini. Something goes wrong. Let's say my house and my property.
No, that's why you pay that $11 of insurance, and then you just go bananas.
I will say there was a famous philosopher in the 20th century who let all of us know that this was going to happen. Her name was Naaman. And she talked about red balloons, specifically 99 red balloons. And in that great edict of philosophy and prediction, she talked about scrambled jet fighters. And she talked about balloons. And she was completely accurate. I think this should be commended and should have been listened to, but we didn't.
Same great show, new time.
The Rob Brown Show.
Now 19 noon, only on the Fan. Upstate. Upstate. WORD Spartanburg.
WFBC HD3, the official sports voice of the Upstate Fan. CBS Sports Radio. From the Philadelphia.
Hey, check this out.
For an official Rob Brown lockdown.
Represent freedom win. Yeah.
Unfiltered sports talk. Manufactured locally for the Carolinas.
Lockdown.
This is the Rob Brown Show.
Get Rob.
All right, real quick. For those of you that were unable to join us, I kept Rashad on the stream during that break because I had a handful of you guys ask about Rashad's thoughts on where we stand in the quarterback scenario, right? Lonzo has been advocating to sell the farm and go get CJ Stroud. You got a lot of draft analysts that have been saying that they believe that Bryce Young is a better pick than CJ Stroud. In fact, earlier today, I think it was one of the two ESPN dudes that do draft stuff every year, either McShay or Kuiper, that said that they believe Bryce Young is just a slightly smaller Patrick Mahomes. And they didn't say that about CJ Stroud. But then I also asked the question about, all right, what about the vets? What about Jimmy G? What about Derek Carr? If they are on the block, what about Lamar? What about Aaron Rodgers? And Rashad said, CJ Stroud, he's with Lonzo. Sell the farm and go get CJ. He said, it's time to bring in the dude. His exact words were, no more bridges. We have built a long bridge to nowhere with all the bridge quarterbacks. Now it's time to go get the young cat that's going to be our guy for a while. But he said if he is unavailable, his next pick would be Lamar Jackson. I said if Lamar is unavailable, because I think it's possible Baltimore puts him on the block, but it's certainly no guarantee that they don't get something done. Maybe Baltimore throws like a $15, $20 million guaranteed apology to Lamar for not getting the deal done before this year and making him play a season, by the way, in which he got injured on a contract he wasn't happy with for a year. Maybe they give him a little bit of an apology guarantee in there somewhere, right? I said, would you be interested in Lamar Jackson in Aaron Rodgers? And Rashad Beard said, yeah, I think I would be, right? I think if Aaron Rodgers comes down, he would be the best quarterback to have played in Carolina. But it wasn't Rashad's answer that I kind of got interested. The answer I got, or the response that I got, was Luke, who said Rodgers is a rental. He said, I don't want any more rentals. Rodgers is a rental.
Yeah, but he's a different kind of rental. He's one of the best quarterbacks of all time. And you think that that Tampa Bay went, we don't want Tom Brady. He's a rental.
Yeah.
You think they said that?
Exactly.
It's different because of the caliber of quarterback that Aaron Rodgers has been and possibly could be again.
100%. My response to that was, yeah, like if I'm going to take a road trip up into the mountains, like I'd rather have my own car that I know, that I trust, that I have seen the work done on, that I have made sure is ready to roll versus a rental. Unless that rental is a Lamborghini, in which case I'm paying the $11 of insurance and I'm driving it like I stole it.
Into the mountains, that might be a bad idea, but I get what you're saying.
Grip it and rip it, baby.
Okay.
It's all stones behind the wheel of a sports car, right?
I wouldn't know.
if you get, and I've done this before. There's actually, I have not used it, but my little brother has what is like the car version of Airbnb on his phone, right? This is an app that he can go on and you book to effectively pay somebody to borrow their car for the day.
Yeah, I've seen this on TV.
Yeah.
It looks kind of cool.
Yeah.
But at the same time,
my brother has rented Mercedes convertibles. He has rented like 1950s Jeeps, right? He has rented big ass pickup trucks. He has rented all the stuff and driven a million different types of cars over the years. And he goes on and you pay like, $100 to rent somebody's car for the day and then $20 in insurance in case something goes squirrely on you. And you get all the verification and whatever to rent their car for the day. Now, nobody is getting on that app and renting a Toyota Corolla, right? All due respect to the Corolla owners out there. But nobody's going out of their way to rent a Corolla. I'd just rather drive my own car. But if I pop on that app and somebody goes, I got a 2007 Lamborghini Diablo with 1 billion horsepower on it, yeah, I might pay a little bit of extra money to kick the tires and take that thing on a spin. And that's what Aaron Rodgers is, right? Again, I don't really care how you feel about the guy personally. I'm not a huge fan. But as far as quarterbacks go, Carolina's been working with a bunch of Corollas, and now they got the chance, even if it's only for a day, to spin the wheels on a European monster sports car. Hell yeah, you do that, dude. Does it mean you're putting on, like, are you taking money out of your bank account that you could reasonably be saving up to buy a nicer car in the future? Yeah. Yeah, but it's a trade-off, right? How many times do you get a chance to drive a Lamborghini? For most of us, never. For a handful of us, like once or twice in our lives, might we ever sit behind the wheel of a sports car like a Lamborghini, right? It just doesn't happen. And so you might take a little money out of the money that you're saving up for a dependable, trustworthy, nice ride. I want, and I don't know why every time I say this, I get a lot of kickback. I love the new Broncos. I love the new Broncos.
You mean the Let's Ride Broncos? Or are you talking about?
No, not the Denver Broncos. I hate them.
You're talking about a vehicle. Okay.
I don't hate the Denver Broncos. I laughed at them a lot.
Just want some clarification.
Denver Broncos. Broncos country. We tried. I love the new Bronco. And towards the middle of this year, I've already got it on the calendar. There's a date I'm going to start saving up because I would like to trade the Jeep in for one of the new Broncos. I think they're killer rides, man. I love them, right? But at the same time,
car dealerships, here's your opportunity.
There you go.
Rob Brown.
If anybody wants to hook me up with a new Bronco, I'll talk real nice about you on the radio.
He didn't mean give one. He wants to pay for one.
Yeah.
And
I want to pay with it with my words.
Because
hashtag radio.
Yeah, the other thing would be bad.
I would love to trade in the Jeep for a new Bronco. I'm going to start saving up. But here's the thing. If tomorrow somebody calls me and goes, hey, Rob, would you like to drive a Lamborghini for a month? It'll cost you $400.
By the way,
hell yeah, I do.
Similar things to that do happen in radio. Not quite the Lamborghini, but I've been around a lot of people who've gotten to drive things for a month or two.
Yeah, happens all the time. And if I can pay $400 for it now, am I gonna drop $400 to rent a Ford F-150? No, and that's not a disrespect to the Ford F-150, right? That's not a disrespect to the F-150. My brother drives an F-150. I actually really like the F-150s, but the point is, I'm not gonna put off buying the Bronco, my franchise, down the road in order to drive an F-150 for a year, right? I will put the Bronco back 3 or 4 months in order to drive a Lamborghini for a month. And Aaron Rodgers or Lamar Jackson, although I think you got a better chance at signing Lamar more long-term. He's going to be 27 when the season starts. That's young enough. You can at least assume he's going to give you another 4 or 5 seasons. Aaron Rodgers, you can believe. You're getting 1 season. Maybe you're getting 2. If he really likes
yeah.
you 3.
I mean, depending how the team does. I mean, if the team does really well, of course you go get him twice. By the way, really quick aside, Rob, could you get out of the Lamborghini and look cool getting out of it? Do you realize how low they are? I'm just saying.
Yeah,
we're both getting older. How do you get out of that Lambo without looking like, your back's hurting and everything else?
My dad had a 50th anniversary Corvette that my mom still has, right? And I still, whenever I go down to Pensacola, I'll take it out for a drive. I can, but it takes like a couple of seconds to like hype up. Like when I pull up in the vet, it's like I got to blast some Bon Jovi for a second to get myself like mentally prepared to not go, when I get up out of it.
It's real world problems right there.
Yes, it is.
For sure.
If I can drive a Lamborghini for a month and it pushes the
purchase
of the Bronco
if I were
back,
to drive a sports car, I would never have that problem.
Yeah, for sure, because you wouldn't get in it. If I can push back the Bronco for a month or 2 or 3 or 4 to drive a Lamborghini for a month, that's an experience that most of us never get. It's worth the money. Aaron Rodgers is 1 year removed from a National Football League MVP award. He is a quarterback that is nicer than any quarterback that's played in Carolina. And yes, with all due respect, I'm including Cam Newton in that. I think most of us would, right? If I asked any of you who's better, Aaron Rodgers or Cam Newton in his prime, I think the answer is Rodgers. Even today.
Yeah, I think it would have to be.
Even today. Rodgers would be the Lamborghini that Carolina's never gotten to drive before. And even if you got to put off finding the real, sturdy, dependable Bronco that you want out of your life, right? You do that to drive a Lambo one time. That's the comparison I'm working with, and I'm good with it. I understand Carolina fans are done with bridge quarterbacks. I understand that Carolina fans want the dude, not a dude, but the dude. They are looking for him. And I get it. Yes. I agree with what Rashad said on the stream during the break. Carolina is primed, right? Primed. Not fired. Primed. The hammer is cocked. The gunpowder's been loaded. It's primed to fire. But you got to have the spark. If you roll the dice with a CJ Stroud, you know what you could end up with? Trey Lance. You could end up with year 1 Justin Fields. And oh, by the way, year 1 Justin Fields, while Justin Fields looked much better this year, what did the Bears do? 3-14 in a first-round draft pick.
Those comparisons don't work.
Why?
They don't, because...
How does Justin Fields, the same dude from the same school, not a fair comparison to C.J. Stroud?
Because the Panthers are better. They're a better team all the way around than what Chicago was when Justin Fields got there. Without a doubt, they're better. He's got a better offensive line. He's got a better defense, better receivers than what's in Chicago. He's got everything he needs there. Chicago was not that way.
You're not wrong. I actually accept that's a good argument, and I accept it. Still a rookie quarterback, right? You're rolling the dice.
You're right.
You're going to get a Patrick Mahomes.
You're right, but what for the most part are Carolina probably going to do next year? Run the ball.
And I think so.
Yeah, and when you have a guy in CJ Stroud who can also run the ball, you have that threat, and he's very accurate with the football when he needs to throw it. So what I'm saying is all the pressure won't be on him like it is on Justin Fields.
You'd like to think so, but here's the other aspect of it. You've got some damn good wide receivers and a good pass blocking offensive line. It would be a waste of an opportunity because here's the thing. You can tell me.
So you're saying he's not a good quarterback.
No,
he can't hit those wide receivers.
Hang on. Let me get where I was going and see if you're going with me.
He looked pretty good throwing to Marvin Harrison Jr. I'm just saying.
I don't disagree. But throwing to the best wide receiver in college football is not throwing to one of the best 5 receivers in the NFL in the NFL. We have seen a lot of guys that were able to blow it up at college that couldn't do it at the NFL because the speed of the game, the read of the game is different. So the point that I'm making here is, even if you only have them for, let's say, a single season, one season, the NFC South next year, as of today, is wide open next year. We know what Aaron Rodgers can do. There's very few unquantifiable variables around Aaron Rodgers. We have no idea what C.J. Stroud or Bryce Young or Will Levis or Anthony Richardson are going to be next year. It's a crapshoot, right? Now, we got some ideas. Like you said, he looked damn good throwing the ball to Marvin Harrison Jr., but throwing to the best receiver in college football, or one of the 2 or 3, versus Big Ten defenses is not throwing to the 5th best wide receiver in the NFL against NFL defenses.
I do believe that he completed some balls against Georgia,
Sure
which
he
is
did.
an SEC defense.
Sure he did. And that's what I'm saying. We've got a lean. C.J. Stroud's not being considered as one of the top 2 picks in the NFL draft if we don't have a lean that is going to be pretty good. But it's a lean with some assumptions on unquantifiable variables about C.J. Stroud that we don't have to worry about with Aaron Rodgers. With Aaron Rodgers, we know what he can do. And even if I only get him I know how a Lamborghini can handle. I may never have handled one, but I know how they handle. And I know how good of a car they are. Otherwise, every time people talked about expensive cars, they wouldn't default to Lamborghini. That's the default kick-ass car is a Lamborghini, right? We know what Rodgers is. We know what he's capable of. And even if we only get to drive that car for a month, we know how BA it can be when we do it. C.J. Stroud is like driving down to the dealership and looking at I don't know. You're looking at Charger that somebody has claimed is super souped up and rigged and ready to go, right? I've put so much work into this thing, man. I've upgraded the engine. I added a NOS button because Vin Diesel made it look cool.
I was going to say, you're talking about a Dom Fast and Furious family type thing.
Yes.
The family took care of the car.
You show up and they're like, yo, family took care of this car. It's souped up. It's got the turbochargers. We added this and that. I don't know a lot about cars. But the point is, if I showed up to a lot and a guy walked up and he's like, look, this car's been souped up. We added this. We took away that. We had a carbon fiber hood and double retro reverse quantifier exhaust system. Gave you 10 more horsepower.
It's a thing. It really is.
Sure. There is absolutely a chance that that guy's telling you the truth, and you now own the most BA Charger in the history of Chargers, and it's going to be a dope car that is going to beat everybody off the line. And then there's also the chance that what? That the dude just changed the hood out and cut a little off the muffler so it's louder, and you think you just got yourself the most BA car in Greenville, and then you drive it off the lot, and you're like, oh, it's just another Charger.
Except for when you're going to make a purchase like that, you bring along someone who does know something about things.
It's fine. You can bring in all the QB analysts in the world.
I was going to say, so
the
question is, do the Carolina Panthers have that car guy there?
You can bring in every QB analyst in the NFL.
You know who's probably a car guy? Jim Bob Cooter.
Jim Bob Cooter. You can bring in every QB analyst in the world, and they have all gotten some wrong. Every one of them. If there was a QB analyst who got it right 100% of the time, they would be the highest paid man in America. They would be Jeff bleeping Bezos if they got it right 100% of the time, but nobody does. So even if you bring that guy down to the dealership with you, he can take a look-see at the car, but at the end of the day, he still might get it wrong. And you're driving off the lot with just another car. It might be, hey, it's still a really nice car. It's still cooler than a Corolla. You're still more BA than that Accord you pulled up next to, but it's just another car versus the Lamborghini where even if I only get it for a month, I still know that I've got the most BA car that I will roll up to any red light to for the next 31 days. I will take my crack at that versus taking the risk that maybe that Camaro is as dope as everybody's telling me is, but I don't really know for sure until I go drive it. And when I get out there and I pull up to the line in my cool white tank top with my crucifix hanging off the windshield, and I do that slow thing where you like side-eye the guy in the car to the right and you
I
live my life a quarter mile at a time.
You know how annoying that really is.
Until I pull up at the light and I give Paul Walker the look and I'm like, do you want to go, bro? And he gives me the look back and he starts kind of his own car. I don't know what I got. And the unfortunate part is I can't find out what I got until I'm done with that quarter mile. In which case, now I know what I got. But if I don't got what I hope I got, it's too late. And the difference between the Carolina Panthers and a lot of other teams right now is that Carolina knows what car is waiting for them at the green light of that quarter mile right now. They're looking ahead. They get a chance. They're standing on the dealership. They're standing on the lot with the opportunity to pick their car, right? And over there, they got a very reliable F-150. Doesn't blow anybody away. We'll call it, I'm trying to think of the name of the vehicle. We'll call it a Derek car. All right. So they're looking at a Derek car. And they know it's reliable and trustworthy.
I don't know where that came from. That was pretty good, though. Okay.
It's reliable. It's trustworthy. It has started, by the way, since 2012. More games than everybody in the NFL at starting quarterback, with the exception of Tom Brady. It's the only guy who started more games than Derek Carr. He's been reliable. And I look at the jalopies lined up at the green light, and I'm like, that will beat those three. The problem is, if I beat those three, I don't know what's at the next racetrack, right? I don't know when I get into the playoffs what cars are lining up at the next green light. I'm taking this analogy as far as I can go.
All right. In your analogy, if it was an actual racetrack, you'd look over at the other three racers that you're racing against. You got a Pinto over there, you got a station wagon, and then you got some car that's got so much Bondo on it that you don't know what it is.
Sure, I agree.
Because we have no idea. There are no quarterbacks in the NFC South right now. Zero.
That's where I'm taking the metaphor, right? I'm looking at the three racers in race number 1, which is the divisional race. And I'm seeing three jalopies at the line. I know that the Derek car can beat those three. The problem is,
I don't know that, though. I don't.
do.
There's a reason why they let him go.
Derek Carr, if he signed with the Panthers today, is the best quarterback in the NFC South, and it's not close.
Right now.
It's not right.
Until we see who the other three are.
Sure, there's moves to be made. But the point is, right now, I know that car can win me the division. I know the Derek Carr can win me the division. But I don't know when I win the division. If I win that division, I move on to the next race in the circuit, right? And when I get to the next race in the circuit, the NFL playoffs, I don't know what cars are there. And I don't know if the Derek car is good enough to beat whatever's beat. I know the Lamborghini is. So even if I only get the Lamborghini to race it for one day, I get to take it to the track for one day. I know that Lamborghini can beat almost that. Now, there's some other teams that have Lamborghinis. Kansas City's got a Lamborghini. Baltimore's got a Lamborghini. There's some other teams that also have Lamborghinis. But my Lamborghini, I know, can at least compete with them and blow the rest of the non-Lamborghini cars off the track and put me to where got a pretty good idea the final race is more likely.
All right. Other than Aaron Rodgers, I'm going CJ Stroud anytime. But the thing is, what you got to do is you got to look at the team and go, can we win the Super Bowl right now if Aaron Rodgers is here? That's the only reason why you go with him. If not, and you're building for the future, you trade some picks, you go up and get CJ Stroud.
The answer to me is yes. This team is good enough with an elite A-plus Hall of Fame Lamborghini quarterback is good enough to win the Super Bowl. You bring in CJ Stroud, you're good enough to win the division. I don't know if you're good enough to win the Super Bowl because I don't know what that dude did under the hood of that Camaro.
Yeah, but if you are, you're good enough for a long time.
Sure. But you've got the most wide open field right now to guarantee yourself a playoff spot next year. I will take the 1 month in the Lamborghini and worry about next year. All right, where do y'all fall on that discussion? Where do y'all fall in on that conversation? Do you want Aaron the Lamborghini Rodgers, or do you want CJ Stroud, the Camaro that may or may not truly be souped up and you won't know until you get it out on the track and it's too late because you're committed? What's your pick? We'll take your thoughts. We'll do some more floors and ceilings of college football teams in the next segment. Fight Club's at 11:20. It's a stacked up, racked up day on the Rob Brown Show and the Fan Upstate. I love Mahomes bringing that WWE belt everywhere. He is not taking it off, and I love it.
I'm surprised that Kelsey hasn't gotten it from him. You know?
I'm surprised Kelsey doesn't have his own.
Maybe he does. I don't know.
Saturday, mostly sunny skies, high around 54. Sunday, plenty of blue skies.
salespeople because our payroll product sells itself. Our payroll is for businesses with up to 100 employees. We handle payroll taxes, offer free setup and support, and our prices are proudly displayed on our website. Go to patriotsoftware.com. Use promo code RADIO and get 2 months of payroll free. That's patriotsoftware.com.
With patriotsoftware.com, accounting and payroll, keep your time and money.
Secrets, cover-ups, and strange phenomena.
UFOs and ideas that challenge reality itself.
My name is George Knapp. I dig into news stories that others can't or won't.
I'm Jeremy Corbell, and for some reason, people tell me things they probably shouldn't. And this is Weaponized. Following Listen to Weaponized, the presentation of Jeremy Corbell, George Knapp, Dark Horse Entertainment, and Cadence 13 Studios. Available now for free on the Odyssey app, wherever you get your shows.
This world has its limits, but in the all-new, all-electric Nissan Ariya, you've got a world of possibilities. You can leave it all behind in serene interiors, or you can go after it with available e-Force all-wheel drive. Go your way in the all-new, all-electric Nissan Ariya. Nissan Ariya with e-Force not yet available for purchase. Expected availability early 2023, subject to change. e-Force all-wheel drive is an optional feature. e-Force cannot protect collision but provide enhanced traction in all conditions. Always monitor traffic and weather conditions.
Here are the rules. No staring at your phone, no rolling in 2 hours late, no sweatpants, no jeans, and no shorts.
For your rules and contests, go to thefanupstate.com/rules. I'm Mark Ryan. If you're like me, you're no interior decorator and you need a bit of help putting together an outfit that counts. I'm beyond grateful at it.
Oh, the Kelsey family is gifted in promo skills. Team charisma, baby. Some of us just rolled an 18 charisma.
Check out their collection today at smithandjames.com and stop by their stores at 222 Trade Street in Greer or at their new location on Verde Boulevard in Greenville.
Sponsored by Positive Coaching Alliance.
Got issues with youth or high school sports? Positive Coaching Alliance can help. ECA.
By the way, James, I got the that you did earlier. I'm not so sure Rob did when you were talking about vehicles.
Oh, I got it.
Okay.
I'm just saying I'm available for endorsements. That's all.
South Carolina is being ranked as a top 5 SEC team for 2023. Buy or sell?
Offsides with Mark Ryan.
3 to 7 on the
Upstate.
always streaming wherever you are on the Odyssey app. Make the fan
I just love that our stream chat has just become nothing but car jokes at this point. I will acknowledge that I may have gone a little deep with the quarterbacks as cars metaphor, but I also stand by the fact that I freaking nailed it with that metaphor, all right? Stuck the landing. French judge gave it a 9.5. It was cool. You got it. You knew what I was talking about. You understood it. You agreed with it. Let's move on.
Don't go from car racing to gymnastics. Come on.
That's just an Olympic joke in general. All right, let's get to some more of these ceilings and floors. I'm gonna start hitting some of the big teams because there's some interesting teams that start to pop up. Bill Connolly of ESPN put up a list of his top 25 teams in college football and the floor and ceiling of their potential results in the regular season this upcoming season. We left you with number 6 at Penn State. His top 5 were Georgia 1, Ohio State 2, Michigan 3, Florida State at number 4, and Alabama at number 5. I would say this. I do think Florida State is going to be a contender in the Atlantic Coast Conference this year. I think they will threaten. I'm not saying they will take, but I think they will threaten Clemson's stranglehold, baby, on the ACC as a whole. But having them at number 4 is really interesting to me. Now, granted, he ranked it with a bunch of different variables. The primary one being his projected regular season win and loss totals, both the ceiling and the floor. He's got Bama 5, Penn State 6. He's got USC at 7. with an 11-1 ceiling and an 8-4 floor. He's got LSU at number 8 with an 11-1 ceiling and a 7-5 floor. He said in Brian Kelly's first season in Baton Rouge, the Tigers 110 stole the SEC West with an upset over Bama. They do bring back Jaden Daniels as their starting quarterback. He was the primary catalyst for a handful of those wins. The defense brought in 10 transfer players this year, a few of them which are projected to be starters. The biggest problem that they have, they're going to be playing in an SEC West for likely the last time, an SEC West that features Alabama, I assume, improved Auburn team. Both Mississippi teams are going to be trying to make some noise before the conference realignment. And they've got that neutral site game against a Florida State team, remember, that sniped them in week 1 of this past season. The biggest problem they have is that they just don't have any big play threats, or at least they didn't this year. And I think a couple of those games, Alabama, Florida State, maybe Mississippi State, Texas A&M, they're going to need a big play or two to win those games, and I don't know if they have that capability. He's got at number 9, the Oregon Ducks. He's got Tennessee at number 10 with 11-1. Why? Well, you got to wonder what the quarterback spot's going to look there, right? They lost Hendon Hooker in that game against South Carolina. Last year, they had to go to Joe Milton. Joe Milton has an absolute freaking missile launcher of an arm. But the question mark is, can he do it consistently, especially when teams have more than a week or two to get a look at and prepare on him? It's an up-tempo offense behind Joe Milton. It's a very quarterback-friendly offense behind Joe Milton, but obviously there's still a lot of questions. He's got the Washington Huskies ranked at number 11. Why? He says there are 3 Pac-12 contenders this year, and this is number 3 at Washington. They went from 4-8 2 years ago to 11-2 this past season. Remember, they got Indiana transfer Michael Penix Jr., who threw for over 4,600 yards and 31 touchdowns. He has decided to return for one more season at Washington. And Jalen McKillen and Romeo Dunze are going to be a pair of highly touted Pac-12 wide receivers. I don't like it. I think Washington drops a stupid game here or there. He's got them with a ceiling of 10-2 and a floor of 6-6. Utah is number 13. He's got them with 10-2 and 7-5 as the floor, with Cam Rising coming back, which is a great quarterback name, by the way. Cam Rising is a phenomenal quarterback name. He's got Notre Dame at number 14, listed with a ceiling of 11-1, but a floor of 7-5. Obviously, at the beginning of the year this year, Notre Dame looked like trash. But then they beat Clemson. And then they started pulling it together as the year went on. They have Wake Forest quarterback transfer Sam Hartman coming in. Hartman was a guy who was threatening to be the best quarterback in the Atlantic Coast Conference last year. Now he's at Notre Dame. Tommy Rees left for Bama in Tuscaloosa back in February, so Freeman has had to scramble for a replacement. They just have not been able to find one, primarily because they've gone after top targets at that position, but have not been willing to come off the paycheck for them, and it hasn't worked. Defensively, this Irish team might be one of the best in the country, a top 10 caliber defense for Notre Dame. But last year, they just could not throw the ball. Will they be able to this year? And at 15, Lonzo, he's got the Clemson Tigers. He says their absolute ceiling is 11-1, and their floor is 8-4. Let me read you the write-up that Bill Connolly put together for Clemson, and then I want to get your immediate gut check reaction to it. He said the biggest variable is modernization. After 6 consecutive top 4 finishes and 2 national titles, Clemson settled into being merely a top 15 program over the past 2 years. The Tigers averaged an offensive SP plus ranking of 9th in that 6-year run, but that average sank to 61st last year. Acknowledging the obvious need for a refresh, Dabo Swinney brought in TCU's Garrett Riley, who will have some fun players, quarterback Cade Klubnik, running back Will Shipley, wide receiver Antonio Williams to build around. The defense wasn't as good as projected in 2022, but it should be fine. As the offense goes, so goes Clemson.
Oh,
gut check reaction.
Oh, that's absolutely right. What he means to say is, as Cade goes, so goes Clemson. Are we going to get the Cade that we saw last time we saw him on the field, or are we going to get the one that was a handoff machine? You don't know. And when I say we, I'm talking about Clemson, and I'm not talking about me because I have nothing to do with that. Anyway, I'm looking at their schedule right now. They got Duke, they got Charleston Southern, they got Florida Atlantic. They're going undefeated through that right there. Then they got Florida State. If Florida State is for real like you think they are, then there may be a struggle there. After that, not until Notre Dame, and then after that, South Carolina. So you could see where they could only end up with 8 wins if some of those teams are a little bit stronger. But chances are they're going to be just fine with Cade not being the starter and also having a little more time under his belt to get acclimated and all that kind of stuff. Until Clemson comes out and loses more games than they have in the last couple of years, I don't see how you could not believe that they're going to do what they've always done.
I think obviously he says that modernization is the variable, and he's talking specifically about the modernization of the offense underneath Garrett Riley. And I think
so he's not talking about bringing in
transfers and working the portal and all of that. No, NIL. Although I think that's a big part of it, right? Like Dabo has been one of, or at least is recognized as one of the most outspoken critics of the portal and all that. But at the same time, we've talked about the fact that Dabo's worked the portal. Dabo's much more selective about how he works the portal than a lot of other guys. Dabo, I truly believe, is telling the truth when he says, I'd rather recruit a great team than import one via the transfer.
Because they have a history of being able to do that for a long period of time.
Absolutely.
But football has changed.
Absolutely. But I think, to me, there are two things going for Clemson this year that one that Connolly hit and another one that he did not, right? I think the one he hit is the modernization. I think it's bringing Garrett Riley. I think it is Dabo having the fortitude to cut one of his own guys out of a position he placed him in, right? Moving on from Brandon Streeter had to be done. It wasn't an option. It had to happen. And Dabo had the stones to go, hey, I know you're one of my guys. I know you're an in-house guy. I know I put you there, but it's just not working. Good luck in your future endeavors. And then had the fortitude to go find a hot OC outside of the program, not to force another one of his guys, his developmental projects into that role. He said, let's go find an OC who is a commodity. And Garrett Riley was absolutely and arguably the hottest, but absolutely a commodity amongst the potential OC candidates in college football. And Dabo had the fortitude to step out of what is viewed as his box to go get somebody else and bring in there and go, an outside guy is going to make this program better. I think that's great. But I think the second thing that Clemson has going for it, and this is going to get filed away in the intangibles, right? The unquantifiable variables. Clemson is starting the year at 15 in the rankings. That's behind Florida State. You know what Dabo gets to do this year? He's been doing it the whole time, but it's never worked, right? And I'm not saying this is disrespectful. I'm just saying it as an outside analyst looking in.
Are you saying that Dabo's on the Roy bus right now?
The Roy bus?
You don't know about the Roy bus? He's said that many times.
The Roy bus.
The rest of you.
The
rest of you bus. Or yuns, depending on who you are.
Y'all, he's not hashtag OOU.
It could be y'all.
You gotta be OOU.
I refuse to go y'all.
Dabo has for years, and I've told you guys, you don't have to like it, but you do have to accept it. The rest of the country views Dabo as kind of hokey, right? And part of the reason why is, as mentioned by Connolly, 6 consecutive top 4 finishes and a pair of national championships, and yet Dabo came out every year with the nobody respects little old Clemson. Everybody just downs us and insults us and disrespects us. And I do think there is some element of truth to that. To some degree, I think Dabo has played up the little old Clemson card so much that everybody outside of the program kind of looks and goes, oh, we are tired of it, right? It'd be like, imagine if Nick Saban came out next year and said, I'm just tired of the Crimson Tide getting disrespected. It's like, nobody's doing that, dude. We may not like you, but we don't disrespect you.
So according to the ranking and everything, if you had to bet money right now, which way would you bet? Would you bet towards an 8-win season or a 10 or 11-win season?
I'm probably comfortable with 10-2.
Yeah, me too.
I'd say 10. If you set the line at 9.5, I'd take the over. If you set it at 10.5, I'd have to think about the bet. If you set it at 11.5, I'd take the under.
if for some reason Clemson only has 8 wins, that means that they've lost to South Carolina, they've lost to Notre Dame, they've lost to Florida State. I mean, it would have to be those teams unless there's a surprise team on there. And it would also mean that Cade is not the guy, because chances are if they lose, it's because of the quarterback play.
Duke, Charleston, Southern, FAU, 3 wins out the gate. Then they got Florida State. That one's going to be at home on September 23rd. They got Syracuse on the 30th. That's at Syracuse. I don't think Syracuse is going to be as good as they were last year, but they did give Clemson a game last year. They got Wake Forest back home. Then they go to Miami. That's a potential loss, as is the Florida State game. They got NC State October 28th, and they've got Notre Dame coming to the house November 4th. Notre Dame's a potential loss for Clemson. I'm not saying they are. I'm saying a potential loss. Then you got Georgia Tech should be a win. North Carolina should be a win. And South Carolina at SC is a potential loss. There are 4 potential losses on the docket for Clemson. If they go 500 in that, they're 10-2. I think that's a fair assumption of record as of today. But what I'm saying here is we're looking at Clemson and talking about 10-2. And for the first time in the better part of half a decade or more, Dabo can walk into the locker room, look at the Tiger football team and go, hey, nobody respects you. Nobody respects you. Everybody thinks that you are a second-rate team. Everybody believes that you are down and out. Everybody believes that you are not worthy of being mentioned in the playoff breath right now. And for the first time in 6 years, it's true. It's true, right? There are already sports writers out there. And again, I know it's early and we're all kind of putting stuff out just for the sake of putting stuff out. But there are already sports writers, and I'm one of them, saying, hey, I think Florida State could take the ACC crown this year. It has a lot of football left to play between here and there. But for the first time, Dabo can look at his team and go, y'all are disrespected. You're considered second rate. You're not worthy of the playoffs. Are we going to prove them wrong or right? And that's a hell of a motivational tool for Dabo Swinney and his football team. That the past few years hasn't been there, but now it is. Let's take a break. We'll come back. I want your thoughts, your reaction. Oh, by the way, for those of you waiting for me to get to South Carolina and where ESPN and Bill Connolly have them with the floor ceiling ranking, he doesn't. He doesn't have you ranked in the top 25. He didn't feel it worth your time to give you a floor ceiling ranking. So South Carolina fans, I would like you to give me your floor ceiling rankings. What do you think is the best possible and the worst possible outcome for the Gamecocks in 2023? We've got Clemson's. Let's get yours for the Yardbirds. That's coming up next on the Rob Brown Show in the Fan Upstate.
Jolt of in-depth sports analysis and discussion every weekday at 6 on the DA Show, only on the Fan Upstate.
I'm Tony Missouri with your sports update on the Fan Upstate. The Charlotte Hornets defeated the San Antonio Spurs 120-110 Wednesday night. They win back-to-back games after a 7-game losing skid. All 5 starters win double figures. LaMelo Ball with a triple-double, 28 points.
It's Gamecock fan. I'm saying 31-30. I respect it. I like it.
And you can say that for almost another year.
That's a fact. All right, we will be right back, guys. Don't go anywhere. Give me about 1 minute.
Of all types can qualify, including
All right, we are back, kids.
nonprofits, and even those that increases in sales. We have helped return over $1 billion to businesses, and we can help you too. Just go to getrefunds.com/sports, click on Qualify Me, and answer a few questions. This payroll tax refund is only available for a limited period of time. Don't lose out on up to $26,000 per employee. Go to getrefunds.com/sports. That's getrefunds.com/sports.
Let's face it, credit cards are pretty much a necessity.
New tires for the car?
Here's my card.
I order takeout, here's my card. And most of us just accept the high interest rates credit cards charge as a necessary evil.
What are you going to do?
Get a low fixed rate credit card consolidation loan from Lightstream from $5,000 to $100,000 and pay off those credit card balances. Apply online and you could get your money as soon as the day you apply. The average credit card company charges over 19%.
Absolutely, Kevin. I am Irish. My grandmother's side of the family got off the boat at Ellis Island from Ireland. And while I know that there are a lot of Irish people who don't, I have Irish blood and I absolutely do. Why not? Why wouldn't I? It's a fun holiday. I celebrate every drinking holiday. Mardi Gras, Cinco de Mayo. If there's a drinking holiday, Rob Brown celebrates it.
Oh, yeah, by the way, my wife just texted me.
And said?
And she got the baby out of the king cake.
I
thought you would appreciate it.
I love it. Congratulations on buying the next cake, Miss Lisa.
Oh, no, she got a gift card for that.
Even better. She didn't have to buy it. She just has to provide it.
Maybe the rules aren't that for there. If the company buys it, I don't think you have to buy it the next time, right?
If you get the baby, you have to buy the next one.
What if the company bought it, though? It's a company thing.
Oh,
Where she works. It was where she works.
I haven't done it here yet, though. I might start because I just found a bakery in Lawrence that I've been told makes some really good king cakes. I just haven't found a good king cake.
Wow, you coming down to mine and Kevin's.
Yeah. Hey, for a king cake, I will. With all
we're out in Lawrence.
To the bakers, and I don't remember the name. It starts with an S. Schlottermans, something like that.
I've never been to a bakery in Lawrence, but it doesn't mean it doesn't exist.
So all due respect to the folks around here, because there are some really, really good bakeries. The bread at Swamp Rabbit Bakery in TR is some of the best bread I've ever had. But I just haven't found a good king cake here. And I got told by another guy from New Orleans that lives here now that those king cakes are as good as some of the ones he's had out of New Orleans.
Well, remember you brought some in last year and I didn't really like it that much.
Yeah.
But you said it was because it wasn't fresh enough.
Right. If you get a king cake, it needs to be gone in a day, tops 2. Right. So anyway, like when I used to bring them into work, the rule was I will buy the first one. The company will buy the first one, but whoever gets the baby buys the next one. And as soon as one is gone, it's replaced until Mardi Gras Day. And whoever is stuck holding the baby for Mardi Gras Day has to buy the first one of the next year. The only problem with that is how many people don't do that because they're losers and don't like fun.
Well, I hope we don't have to do that because that sounds expensive. So, I mean,
Careful how big of a piece you cut, buddy.
From the Ingles Market Studio,
Upstate, 97.7 FM Greenville, 97.1 FM Spartanburg.
from the freelancing
All right, so we gave you the floor and ceiling regular season results for the top 25, well, for the teams that are relevant to us in the top 25 of college football. Bill Connolly of ESPN says that Clemson's ceiling is 11-1, that they will lose a game somewhere, and that their floor is 8-4. And I think that is absolutely fair. We took a look up and down the schedule. There are 4 potential losses on the docket for Clemson this year. Florida State, Notre Dame, Miami, and South Carolina are 4 potential losses. If they go 500 in those 4, that's a 10-2 team. If they go 750, they're 11-1, and that's right there in that mix. He did not include a floor and ceiling ranking for South Carolina. Did not give them a crack at it. So looking at the schedule of the Gamecocks this year, they open against North Carolina up in Charlotte in a neutral site contest. Then they've got Furman at Georgia, back home for Mississippi State. Then they go to Tennessee. They are at home for Florida. They are in the other Columbia for Mizzou. Then they're on the road at Texas A&M. Then they wrap it up with a 4-game homestand against Jacksonville State, Vanderbilt, Kentucky, and Clemson. Lonzo, is the North Carolina game with Drake May coming back, is that a questionable game? I'm thinking like 75% I pick South Carolina.
Last I checked, Spencer Rattler is also
Yeah.
coming back. So my answer to that would be no.
So that's not a losable game for you. Okay.
Not to me. I only heard 2 possible losing games in there, and that would be a great season, wouldn't it?
It would be. Georgia, I'm assuming, is one of them.
Yeah.
And I'm going to guess your other one is
I said possibility.
possibility. So Clemson.
Possibility. Right.
Clemson.
That would be possibility. And that's just because of the rivalry factor.
So there's only 2 losable games on the schedule.
In my opinion, yes.
Okay.
But
Georgia's an L. I would say Clemson is a losable game. I would say Texas A&M at Texas A&M is a losable game. Not saying it's a favored loss, but a losable game. I would like to say Florida is not. Because you got decimated by them last year.
which makes it a vengeance game. So I
True,
mean,
but it also means that to some degree, Billy Napier put together a game plan.
They want that back, and they're going to get it back.
That's fair. Without Will Levis, I think Kentucky should be a win for South Carolina. Vanderbilt, Jacksonville State should be. At Mizzou, I'd like to say that's a dub for South Carolina. But Mizzou got you last year too, and now you got to go to Columbia, Missouri. I don't love that game. I am going to set the floor for South Carolina at 7-5. I am going to set the absolute ceiling for South Carolina at absolute ceiling. I'm going to set it 10-2. I don't think 11 wins is possible. I think 10-2 is possible, but not likely. I think if you bet me the over-under, I would bet the over at 8.5. I would bet the under at 9.5. I think 9 wins is my realistic expectation. But at the end of last year, 9 wins is what I said should be the realistic expectation for the Gamecocks this year. All right, Yardbird fans, who you got? We got Hudson checking in. He said 9-3 at 6-6 is the lowest. It's a gauntlet of a schedule. So how do you feel about that?
I don't think it's as bad as it's been in the past as far as schedule goes.
I don't either, but I hate the road trips. I hate the road trip to Tennessee. That is a contest game. Even without Hendon Hooker, Tennessee's still going to be good. That's a potential L. Clemson's a potential L. Georgia's a potential L. Mizzou's a potential L. A&M's a potential L. What do you got, Gamecock fans? When we come back here in just a minute, Clemson beat FSU by 40 on the basketball court last night. Did it elevate them back into a tournament spot? Let's talk about that and more when we come back on the Rob Brown Show on the Fan Upstate. Oh, my back just popped like a machine gun.
Cool.
So last night I went out onto the ice for Chuck-a-Puck at the Rabbits game. And I've told you that I go up before and I talk to the DJ and I have him play me a walkout song. In tribute to the soon-to-be head of the table, I had him play Sami Zayn's music when I walked out last night. And I looked up to the left side of the rink as I was walking out on the ice. And there were 2 sturdy fellas, large, big old boys, who when Sami Zayn's music dropped, come up out of their chair and started doing Sami Zayn dance moves in the aisle at the intermission.
Which is hard to do.
Amazing.
It's hard to do if you're sturdy.
It's a lot of swinging.
Yeah. Because you get out of breath really quick.
I started to do his little kick dance as I walked out on the ice, and then I remembered it's ice.
Yeah, it's ice. Probably not a good idea.
Alex Bowman won the pole for Sunday's Daytona 500, and Michaela Schifrin wins the women's giant slalom world title in France. I'm Andrew Bush.
Hey, it's DA. Be sure to listen to CBS Sports Radio at home. Ask Alexa to play CBS Sports Radio.
This is a special alert to all Americans who own a vehicle with less than 200,000 miles with an auto warranty about to expire or with no warranty coverage at all. Due to a decline in the economy, CarShield is announcing a low-cost month-to-month vehicle protection plan that is now available to the public to save any driver out-of-pocket expenses on future auto repairs. Call now to find out how you can pay almost nothing for covered auto repairs. Yes, you heard that correctly. Pay almost nothing for covered auto repairs. An open phone line has been established for all drivers to call for a free quick quote. Call 800-932-8603 now. Drivers who are covered will not have to pay for covered repairs again. This protection plan is at an all-time low. Additionally, drivers who activate this vehicle protection today will also receive free roadside assistance, free towing, and car rental options at no additional cost. Call us for your free quick quote today. 800-932-8603. That's 800-932-8603. What do you have to lose? Call 800-932-8603. Again, 800-932-8603.
Running a small business is no small task. At Home Trust Bank, we work hard to prepare businesses for whatever tomorrow may bring. Your dreams are our business, and we have local experts who can help you plan for a successful future. Dependable guidance you need and service you'll appreciate. At Home Trust Bank, we take your small business banking personally. Visit your local Home Trust branch or anytime at htb.com. Member FDIC.
Make sure you're at the Harris Cherokee Center, Asheville, March the 2nd through the 6th for the 2023 Ingalls SoCon Basketball Championships. Experience fun for the whole family as your favorite teams compete for the championship and a berth to the NCAA tournament. Get your discounted tickets to the 2023 Ingalls SoCon Basketball Championships today at your local neighborhood Ingalls Market. For more information, visit SoConHoops.com. That's SoConHoops.com.
Wings Etc. is the perfect spot for just about everyone. Friends, family, even in-laws. Our food is always made fresh to order, available in-store and online. Try our family restaurant that happens to have a bar. Wings Etc. 2644 Boiling Springs Road. Great food, great time, nearby.
The listening you love is on the free Odyssey app. Your trusted local.
Yes, the Pelicans King Cake mascot baby is terrifying, James, and it should be the star of so many horror movies.
Shows to your queue to catch up later. There's a lot to listen to, so get started and download the free Odyssey app today.
Without the ones like you, who work tirelessly to keep things running, everything would suddenly stop. Hospitals, factories, schools, and
QC in the first break.
And 4.
Emergency or time of day, you're the ones who get it done. At Grainger, we're here.
So I'm going to have a 8 games, video games that aren't going to make the top 62.
Okay.
We're going to have play-ins this weekend.
You have plans?
Play-ins.
Oh, play-ins.
Sorry for my lack of pronunciation.
I was like, you're going to play 32 video games this weekend?
I could do that.
Also, I'm going to tell you this before the show started. Xbox One does not have Hogwarts available to play until April 4th at all.
At all?
Yeah. So I can't play until.
So I guess you can't, or you could go out and get you an Xbox One.
I've recently made a rather large purchase that has prevented me.
Yeah, I know.
Investing in my video gaming.
I gotcha.
Everything you burn, double. The cash back from trips, restaurants, all double. See terms and check it out for yourself at discover.com/net.
Had to take a break from it yesterday. I actually started watching the Val Kilmer documentary, which is
the other day.
Yeah, it's interesting. His son is narrating because he can't talk anymore because he had throat cancer and he's got to do that thing.
He can't talk anymore, right?
Yeah, he's got that thing where he has to push the button on his throat to talk. But they have like footage of being out with all the guys from Top Gun and stuff like that. Someone is accusing you of buying the Mario boots. He did. He's got
$1,800 of giant red rubber boots.
He's got to make payments on it.
Those look like they look like rain boots if your parents hated you.
All right, back in the 80s, back in the day, yeah, moon boots. They remind me of moon boots.
Were those the ones that had like the mini trampoline strapped to your feet?
No, these just look like.
Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, I do. These look like boots you'd wear on the moon.
Weren't those called moon boots though?
I don't think so.
I think they were. Weren't they called? They were.
Wow, look at that. You know what's trending?
Moon shoes. They were moon shoes.
You know what's trending in the United States right now?
UFOs.
Skynet.
They see you, Lonzo. They see you. They're here. Moon shoes. Those were they were in the line with like lawn darts of who the hell thought this was a good idea?
Lawn darts was amazing. Can't believe they got rid of that.
If you had the lawn darts.
Well, yeah, and well, we didn't throw them up in the air. We threw them towards each other. But that's
right. That's the point.
Yeah, it's
moon boots. They were like a plastic frame that you strapped onto your tennis shoe
moon
with
shoes.
Velcro.
You're still talking about the moon shoes, not
yeah,
the
moon
boots.
shoes.
Yeah,
you strapped them over the top of your tennis shoes, and they had like thick rubber straps that went across the frame, and your foot rested on top of them. And so you would jump up and down, and they were like 2 mini trampolines strapped onto the bottom of your shoes. And yeah, I'm not going to lie. Like I've kind of started to hit the age where I look around and I'm like, some kids are soft, right? Somebody else's kids are a little soft. I'm not saying like I'm not team whooping or anything, but like some of y'all's kids are soft. And then I look back at the toys that I was going to say we used to play, but even before me, obviously. And like, I remember going out into my front yard, Lonzo, and we would go down the street to where they were building new houses in our neighborhood. And we would just literally steal plywood and 2x4s, bring them back to the house, dragging them behind our bikes. We would take the plywood and we would nail like 2 or 3 2x4s, and we would make a bike ramp, and then we would just haul booty down the road and jump our bikes off the bike ramp. And at no point did any of our mothers look out the front door and go, that's not a good idea.
Yeah,
you should stop that.
We did that too. I think they did used to do that all the time, except for the stealing part. We didn't do that.
We just straight up stole it right off of construction sites.
Well, my neighborhood houses are falling apart, so it's pretty easy to find, some plywood just lying in a yard somewhere.
Fair enough. I remember stealing these things straight up as like an 8-year-old kid.
The statute of limitations is ran out on thieving from a construction site.
I'm sure those construction companies aren't even in business anymore.
Okay.
Because I'm old. This was 30 years ago. I'm sure that it has. But as like an 8-year-old, stealing plywood and 2x4s, nailing the 2x4s to the plywood, creating a ramp, a roughshod, rickety bike ramp that we would, by the way, set in the middle of the road in a residential neighborhood.
Yeah, I remember an incident where I was jumping over a rather large ramp and my sister decided to drive her tricycle right in front of me. It did not end well for either one of us.
No. We would just plop these things down in the middle of the road and ride our bike down the hill as quickly as we could at them, hit that ramp like the only thing that mattered was speed, jump as high in the air as we could land, and then intentionally skid our bike to stop because we were like Evel Knievel of the golf course country club neighborhood.
Yeah, I am curious about what your 1%er bike was like.
Oh, I had a mongoose.
That's what I figured. That's what I figured.
And
there is nothing more 1%er as far as the bikes go than a mongoose.
The mongoose was dope. That being said, I did not have the pegs. You weren't cool unless you had the the mongoose was a nice step, but I didn't have the pegs on the mongoose.
I started out with a Huffy with a banana seat, but that's me.
So we would at no point did any adults in the neighborhood open up the door and be like, hey, maybe A, don't do that at all. B, maybe don't do it in the middle of the road in a residential neighborhood. And C, if we're going to do that, why don't we get you a ramp that is made for this instead of allowing y'all to go all Bob the Builder on it and build your own death traps?
First of all, that's the whole point. And I'm sure the parents of the children's like you did the same thing. And they existed and they're still okay. And they didn't rack themselves up enough to where they couldn't have children anymore because, you were there jumping also. But it test the ingenuity of the kids. Can you build a ramp that you can jump over?
I mean, I guess in fairness, I
mean, you're looking at that one kid going, that guy's going to be an engineer. Look at that. Look at how that's designed.
I mean, in fairness,
ramps are simple machines, and he's able to make that at the perfect angle to get the right hop off of it. Yeah.
What little handyman abilities that I have, I guess I can somewhat credit to building my own rickety bike ramps as a child.
You don't want to be the guy who built the bad ramp, because you're probably going to get beat up after someone gets up, and dusts himself off.
That's fair. All right, ladies and gentlemen, 844-FAN phone, 844-FAN-FONE, 844-326-3663 is the number. You can also text us at 71307, 71307. Start your text with FAN, F-A-N, FAN, F-A-N, and we will read them on the air. Texter says, Rob, I had a Mongoose too. I feel like Trek bikes are more 1%, which is hilarious, Lonzo, because if you go to the house right now and you open up the storage shed at the house, which you can't because it's locked, so don't try. And I do have a ring camp on it. Stay away from my house. There is a Trek hybrid bike hanging in there right now. So I guess I've just upgraded. Texture says, Rob, don't forget the 90-degree angle that we would set the ramp at. Yo, yeah. It was you always started with like 2 2x4s. And then once you got real comfortable sticking the landing, you nailed another one to the bottom, and then another one, and then another one. And by the end of the day, you're jumping off a ramp that was more pointed at the sky than the ground, just to see how high you could go after ripping down the street.
Especially if some of the kids in the neighborhood were very sturdy. Got to keep the word going.
I like it. All right, ladies and gentlemen. Fan phone, 844-326-3663. Texas 71307. Start your text.
Steven has called you out.
Said, I have to say, as a contractor in the Armada, stealing job site materials, not cool, bro. Steven, let me ask you this, and I mean this genuinely and sincerely. If you were driving by one of your sites, right? And yet, now, in fairness, I am relatively sure that when I was a child, 2x4s did not cost $800 a piece, right? I'm sure when I was a kid, 2x4s were a little bit more easy to procure than they are now. So my bike ramp didn't technically cost $700 to $800 like it probably does nowadays. But if you were driving by a construction site and you saw a group of 8-year-old kids on their mongooses and huffies jumping a ramp in the middle of the road that they built, you're telling me, knowing what we know about kids nowadays, that you wouldn't have a little smile creep across your face? The good old days are still here.
Let me speak for Steven here and say, yeah, if you see those kids out there riding mongooses and expensive bikes, and that means their parents could afford to buy them some wood. Quit stealing off my site. Go have some talks with your parents.
Fine. If you didn't see a sturdy, long-haired kid with a huffy and a banana seat on it.
Hair was short back then, but yeah.
Texture said, Rob, we would dig in the dumpster from the construction site. Oh, yeah, 100%. Dumpster's fair game, right? If you throw a half-used sheet of plywood in the dumpster, that's fair game. You were getting rid of it anyway. I think that's totally fair. That would make me smile. James said, a single 2x4 in this economy?
Yeah, it's you don't want to go out there and try to buy some wood right now.
Thanks, Obama. Yeah, it's a lot.
I was actually going to thank Brandon, but you thank whoever you want to.
My bike ramp nowadays costs $875.
See, you're laughing, but it might actually cost that much.
I'm only half kidding, I guess. All right. Got a few more things I want to get into on the radio broadcast today, but let me get Rick in here real quick before we do. We got Fight Club coming up next. Rick, welcome back to the show, big fella. Good to have you.
I love it, Rob. You and Alonzo are the perfect team, and I love it when you do the fight. I'm a big wrestling fan, okay? I love my wrestling, okay? And you do it so well that I can't wait to hear it. So it's coming up next.
It's coming up next every Thursday at 11:20.
Good. Thanks for doing such a good job, and I miss you on the broadcast for the Burns High School. I plan my day around Friday nights. So can't wait till you start the Burns broadcast
Well,
up.
fingers crossed, my guy. In about 29 weeks, we'll be running it back.
Also, heading to the Masters, got 4 tickets. If you want some updates from the Masters, just give me a call.
Done.
We're going to the Masters for Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday.
Dang. You can't call me 1%er anymore, Lonzo. Rick's got me beat by a lot. I will. We will absolutely want that, Rick. You are too kind, man. Appreciate the phone call. Thank you very much for jumping in, buddy. Fight Club comes up next. We'll talk our wrestling. Genesis Open is going on starting today. Tiger's playing in the Genesis. Played 16, walked 18 yesterday, said his knee feels good, and he believes he can get all the way through this tournament. I will also tell you, it's not the smartest bet I've made. But Rob Brown put down some coin on Tiger Woods to win the Masters this year, and I got him at like 150 to 1, right? If Tiger Woods wins the Masters this year, Rob Brown will have a very nice bottle of bourbon waiting for him that Monday afternoon.
Oh, I thought you were going to take me out to lunch.
No, I'd rather have the bourbon.
Okay.
I mean, I'll take you to I'll take you to like a Wendy's. We'll grab a 4 for $4 in celebration.
That works for me. I'm fond of Wendy's fries, so we can do that.
There you go.
By the way, James says Jim Duggan doesn't have a problem finding 2x4s. Neither should we.
Nathan,
they're always nice 2x4s too, by the way.
Nathan, all right, let me address this real quick. And then I do want to get like a minute or two of Clemson basketball in here real quick. Nathan says, Rob, don't steal from job sites. It costs a lot of money, and some of these companies are living from job to job and need everything they get. Nathan, this was 30 years ago, man. It turns out I am almost 38 years old. I am not building 2x4 and plywood bike ramps in my street at 38 years old, man. I'm talking about when I was 8 years old in 1993.
Man, you are old.
Yeah. That's why I don't build plywood and 2x4 bike ramps anymore. Because I'm pretty sure if I jump one now, every joint in my body would just disintegrate. I'd be like a Family Guy sketch, like when the cartoon characters get the air let out and they just turn into balloons. That's what I'd be if I tried a 2x4 and plywood bike ramp. No 38-year-old man. Okay. Very few 38-year-old men are stealing plywood and 2x4s from job sites to build middle of the residential road bike ramps anymore.
Yeah, they're just taking them to cover up the holes in their lean-tos because it gets cold in February.
Tiny houses. Clemson basketball did exactly what I needed them to do last night. I told y'all there were very few options left on the table. Clemson at one point led the Atlantic Coast Conference record in overall shooting hoops. Now it belongs to Pittsburgh. And part of the reason why is that Clemson was on a 3-game L streak. And a 3-game L streak that included a couple of teams they had no business losing to. So I said yesterday on the show that you needed to watch the Clemson-Florida State game last night because you were going to get a view into what I believe this team really was.
Oh wow! Look, we're almost out of time.
Don't you take this? I know you want your segment. Don't you take this?
No, I just wanted to take away from the Clemson side. It's twofold.
So I said that Clemson had gotten to a point where they were out of options. They need to if they want to get back into a spot where Selection Sunday isn't a nerve-wracking experience anymore, that they needed to win every single game that they were supposed to win, including yesterday when they took on the Seminoles of Florida State. And I said they had to win them convincingly. So what did they do last night? They went out and they blew the doors off the Noles. 94-54 winners, 20 points off the back of PJ Hall, who has quickly become my favoriteest college basketball player this season. Chase Hunter was able to stick 18 onto the tally. You got 10 out of Tyson. You got 10 off of Beatles bench roll. You got 9 off of Wiggins off the bench. Clemson played basketball like a team that bleeping wants to make the tournament this year. Now, do I wish they would have done that the last 3 games? Do I think that if they were able to take back the L against BC, the 20-point L against Carolina, last night they wouldn't have needed to get that dub? Yeah, would have been nice. But the past is the past. All you can do is look forward. So I said with 7 games left on the schedule, including last night's against FSU, FSU had to be a win. At Louisville has to be a win. Back home on the 18th, on the 22nd against Syracuse, had to be a win. NC State and Virginia, both on the road. The third and second two last games on the schedule. You have to win one of those games. Those are the last 2 ranked games on the schedule for Clemson. And unless you just want to rely on kicking Boutte and taking names in the ACC tournament, you have to win FSU, Louisville, Syracuse, and a bad Notre Dame team on March 4th to end the season. And you need to take one of the 2 against NC State or Virginia. Because while the wins earlier in the season against number 24 Duke, against the now ACC leading Pitt 75-74, while the wins earlier in the season were good, the L's against the Gamecocks, the L's against Iowa, the L against Loyola Chicago, the L at Wake Forest, and the 3 consecutive L's to Miami NC and Boston College hurt you more than the good wins help. So you had to beat FSU, Louisville, Syracuse, and Notre Dame, and you need to take one of the 2 on the road at NC State and at Virginia back-to-back. You convincingly beat Florida State. You beat the hell out of Florida State. By the way, a Florida State team that you traveled down to Tallahassee a couple of weeks ago, and frankly, Florida State choked a win away. That L against Florida State, had it happened on the road a couple of weeks ago, I thoroughly believe would have bounced you out of the tournament. You'd have been an NIT team, but you finished that game off. You played well enough that Florida State made a mistake down the stretch and you won. Then you gave 3 back in a row. It had to be winning. It had to be convincing. And it was a 40-point victory last night. And Clemson did just about everything right. Shot 60% overall. Shot 49% from 3. Hall and Hunter went 15 of 19 combined. Hall made all 4 of his 3-pointers. Hunter was 2 of 3. Beadle and Tyson had 10 apiece. The Tigers scored 31 points off of 16 FSU turnovers. Opened the game bloodthirsty, a 16-3 run to start. The lead grew to as much as 24 going into the break. A season-high 47 first-half points. Had a 21-point lead. Hunter was 6 of 7 from the floor with a pair of threes. Hall didn't miss a shot. Went 5 of 5 from the field goal range and a pair of trays as well. Clemson played like a team that was on a mission last night. And it would have been nice for the mission to be a guaranteed number 1 seed in the ACC tournament. It would have been nice. And by the way, it still might be, right? If you went out and get a little help, Clemson could still be the 1 seed in the ACC. It would have been nice if last night was more of a confirmation than a quest, but it doesn't matter. The quest last night was, we are about to prove we are not a bubble team, that we deserve an invite, and we deserve an invite somewhere in the 7 or 8 seed, not a 14 seed. And you accomplished that. Now the focus turns to, can you be consistent? Now the focus shifts from, we need to go out there and we need to dominate a very mediocre Florida State team. Now you got to do it back to back. You get a couple of days off. You got to take the roadie up to Kentucky to take on the Cardinals of Louisville. I need you to go beat them by 25, right? They are worse than Florida State. Louisville is currently sitting at 3-23 overall. They are 1-14 in conference. They have won 3 basketball games so far. They beat Western Kentucky, they beat FAMU, and they beat a bad Georgia Tech team. They have been run out of the building a number of times. If Clemson wants to be considered a true tournament team and not a team that snuck in, you better go beat Louisville by 30, right? Do what you did to Florida State, but tell me that you can A, do it back-to-back, and B, do it on the road. This Louisville team sucks. Sorry, no offense, Cardinal fans. This team sucks. It is embarrassment to what Kentucky basketball is supposed to be, right? Clemson, you have gotten from, hey, an L's not that bad, to the L's we have taken ding us more than the wins we have polish us. You need polish now. How do you polish it? Go smoke Louisville. Do it in back-to-back games. Show us that you have figured out the key to consistency. If you go to Louisville and you win by a point or two, that's not good enough. You need to go do what you did to FSU on the road at Louisville. You don't have any other option. Let's take a break. When we come back, it's Thursday, and you know what that means. Fight Club with Lonzo is next. We got a world of pro wrestling to get into. We have got some very interesting MMA bouts coming up over the next couple of months. Maybe we'll dive into those. We'll find out what Lonzo has planned for us next when we come back on the Rob Brown Show and the Fan Upstate. Got a live read, guys. Do not go anywhere. We shall be right back.
as the pain gets worse and worse. Maybe I should just drill a hole in the back of my head. See if that relieves the pain. I've never missed a movie because of a headache.
That would suck.
Especially when we bought 5 tickets. How much do you think that costs?
5 tickets, $45 for 5 movie tickets.
Not in IMAX either. Tickets have gone up that much. We will be addressing this a great deal on the Upstate Pulse this weekend. At what point, how expensive does a movie ticket have to be to where you go, nah, I'm out?
I don't know is the answer.
I've always paid about that much to go to IMAX, and I think it's worth it because I don't do that often. But when regular tickets, and we talked about this last week on the show, AMC is just introduced you pay more for better seats now. And since they're doing it, Regal probably will pick that up. Part of it's the economy, and part of it's probably trying to recoup some of what they lost during COVID. I don't know if they ever recover that much.
Coming up on a Friday Eve episode of Offsides with Mark Ryan and Diesel, you won't believe the quarterback who's being linked to the Carolina Panthers. He just might win them the NFC South. A holidays power ranking, and South Carolina is being ranked as a top 5 SEC team for 2023. Buy or sell?
Offsides with Mark Ryan. Upstate.
I just don't think he's good to be.
Welcome into the Fight Club, where we face life like a poorly constructed bike ramp
That we totally stole from the construction site, but didn't because mom's listening.
Dust ourselves off, rub the blood on our shirt, get back on the bike, and jump again. A lot of stuff to talk about, especially with Elimination Chamber coming up. But before we get to that, I have a UFC question for Rob. Okay, UFC is on Saturday night versus the NBA All-Star Saturday night. And NBA All-Star Saturday night's 3-point contest, skills contest, and the slam dunk contest. Jessica Andrade is the only fighter you've ever heard of fighting on that card. What kind of card would they have to have on Saturday night for you to go, you know what, I'm going to watch UFC. I'm not going to watch the slam dunk contest?
I mean, I think first and foremost, you have to give me a fight with transcendental fighters, right? Like and the list of those, especially now, is not super long. I was thinking about this.
Well, we know that there's a big fight coming up with John Jones and Cyril Gane.
That would do it.
Which, yeah, if you put that on a Saturday night, which they're going to in like a month, we're still a month away from that big fight, which that will be the next one that I actually buy. Then I'm watching that for sure. But if you're throwing up just Jessica Andrade, who's a good fighter against a bunch and everybody else in the card it's not really that big of a deal. I think they could have done better. And maybe it all starts with the John Jones fight.
Yeah, I listen, UFC has created a spot where they view themselves as an entertainment company as much as a competition, right? As much as a fighting company. You can see that in pretty much everything they do with the Ultimate Fighter, with the way that the weigh-ins and press conferences now look more WWE than they do boxing, although boxing sometimes does it too. But I kind of view it as, I think the John Jones Cyril Gane fight could be considered the beginning of the next season of TV, right? Like I think you're going to get some stacked cards. I think that as big as UFC, as big as MMA has gotten, but as big as UFC has gotten, I think it realizes that it is still, to some degree, a niche sport, right? Like if you go out to a bar on a Saturday night and there's a UFC card on, you might have it on in one corner of the bar. There's only in the upstate maybe 2 bars that are like, we're a UFC bar tonight. It's going to be on every TV. It just doesn't happen that much. It's a niche sport. And while the NBA All-Star Game and skills competition is an exhibition, basketball remains a much larger sport. And I would be willing to bet that despite the fact that All-Star games don't get the attention of marquee matchups in competitive leagues, we saw the ratings for the Pro Bowl flag football game, and they were pretty damn good, right? So I got to think if you are Dana in UFC, you're just hanging out. I don't want to go up against the NBA because the other side of that coin is if we go up against an NBA skills competition and they outdraw us, that's just a bad look.
Well, the other thing is, and I don't know why I didn't think about this before, it's also going up against Elimination Chamber.
It is going up against WWE.
Which we're going to get to.
And I will tell you, and without getting into the conversation about the Elimination Chamber, the card that they would have to put together to get me to watch a UFC card over the story they're telling in WWE right now would have to be the single greatest card ever assembled. And even then, it would probably be on the laptop and Elimination Chambers going on the big TV.
Yeah, I agree with you. Before we get to Elimination Chamber, I got 2 more questions for you. One, could Rob Brown beat any of the young Bucks or Kenny Omega at basketball?
Oh, yeah.
Because they keep doing promos where they have basketball.
If you gave me time to get in shape, yeah. Like if you said July 31st.
They're all about your age, right? Or a little bit younger.
They're a little bit younger than me.
Yeah, not much.
I think if you gave me till Nick Jackson's 33. The Young Bucks are 33. Kenny Omega is, I'm going to guess, probably 38. He's 39. So he's a little bit older than me. If you gave me till like the end of June, early July to give myself time to get back in shape, yeah, I could beat them. Like the fascination they had in their promo last night with Nick being able to palm a basketball. If you give me 3 or 4 months to get in shape, they would be able to out-stamina me, but I'd beat them at basketball.
All right, finally, last question before we get to Elimination Chamber. Is showing a Botchamania sign in the crowd during an AEW show full of botches a good move or a bad move? Because last night was pretty bad in some spots.
I mean, it depends on who you're asking for.
And then they go right and show a Botchamania sign. And it's like, okay.
Yeah, I think the producers of AEW, I think this is probably to some degree, while it's been in for a couple of years now, technically speaking, AEW is still technically wet behind the ears, right? They're still learning stuff because AEW really has only been touring the way they're touring for what, half a year now? About 6 months. They've been touring. They toured off and on, but predominantly the majority of the shows were done at Daly's Place down in America's worst city, Jacksonville.
Yeah, but mostly that was because of COVID, though.
Sure, but whatever reason, the weekly touring is still relatively new to AEW, so the producers of the show are still going to be learning. It's great if you're Matthew to get your YouTube views up because people are going to go look for it. No, it's not a great look for AEW considering you are still in a point where you are trying to cover up a lot of folks trying to get their lives together.
Yeah, there were some bad spots last night. Come on, you've got to admit that there were some bad spots.
100%.
And after one of those, they went to the Botchamania side.
Yeah.
And I don't know, maybe Tony Khan said do that. So they understand that there's a problem.
Said, Rob, haven't you been getting in shape for almost the last 3 years? No, I've been trying to be less fat for the last 3 years. And I succeeded for a while. What Lonzo asked is, can you beat one of the world's best professional wrestlers in a basketball game? You realize that's a different shape than, can I sit in this chair without it going down every time I move?
By the
way,
way,
are two different in shapes.
Real quick, according to Pro Football Talk, the Colts have requested Jim Bob Cooter for offensive coordinator.
There's going to be competition for Jim Bob Cooter.
Which could be a good move because then maybe the Panthers will snatch him up. All right, Elimination Chamber match for the United States Championship. Austin Theory, who is the current champ, versus Seth Rollins versus – I'm not doing it. Versus Johnny Gargano.
You want to say freaking?
I'm not
freaking Rollins.
Yeah. I'm not going to give him that pleasure. I will say the word freaking,
okay.
but
All
I'm
right.
not going to say it for him.
Got it.
Seth Rollins, Johnny Gargano, Bronson Reed, Damian Priest, and Montez Ford. I'm going Austin Theory retains.
I think so too. You're building him.
Now, how in the world does Bronson Reed get out of the pod?
How does he get in the pod? Yeah, I'm gonna go with Theory retains. I think that you have built him up into such a bleep hole heel, and he's continuing to get heat with the story. I don't think it's clean. I think there's something wonky going on for the finish, but yeah, I think he retains. He's just got too much really good heat as the young millennial heel that none of the old guys like. I think it's great. Talk about a turnaround, dude.
Yeah, I agree.
Talk about a turnaround.
But he's had the potential the entire time.
100%.
Just has to do.
And I'll be honest, I didn't even hate the selfie character because I think the I'm the main character syndrome is real amongst the young.
Yeah,
ones.
but that worked better with McMahon backing him.
I agree. I think the I'm the main character syndrome was a great character for Austin Theory. But I think the current heel persona, he's just a natural fit for.
All right. The Elimination Chamber match for the women, I think, is kind of a waste of time. And I think that maybe there'll be a swerve before this happens because I think there's only one obvious winner, and I could be wrong. It's Asuka versus Liv Morgan versus Nikki Cross versus Raquel Rodriguez versus Natalya versus Carmella. And so who you got?
I mean, it's either Raquel.
I'm glad you struggle with it too. Or are you struggling because I did? Yeah, it could be.
It could be Raquel. It's either Raquel or Asuka. Like they strapped Liv Morgan. She botched out of the gate. I love her. She's tenacious. But I think it's Asuka. You didn't bring back the super violent old school Japanese wrestling version of Asuka to not give her a crack at going to the moon. I'm going to go Asuka.
And that's the thing. If Asuka goes in there and becomes the true heel that character is supposed to be, maybe it ends up being very brutal in there. Yeah. And that would make up for the lack of, stars.
And I think you can use that to set up a rivalry with Raquel Rodriguez as a face. I don't really see her as a face, but at the same time, I'm not. As Triple H said in the ring hilariously, this booking stuff's hard, man.
Yes, it is. All right. Speaking of which, a match that I really don't care about, but we're getting it anyway. Edge and Beth Phoenix versus Finn Balor and Rhea Ripley. I'm going to say that Edge and Beth win.
I am going to agree with you, but
By the way, Dom stuff's still top notch.
It's so good.
Did you see the Valentine's Day video?
Yeah. Phenomenal. Phenomenal. I will simply say that Judgment Day is plus 300 in Vegas to win this thing, and I might take that because of Dom getting involved. But there's also the aspect of if Dom gets involved, Ray gets involved, and now we got that set up to finally get their feud kicked off out of this match,
which seemed like it was going to happen at WrestleMania. So if that's going to happen, this is when it has to
spark it. Yeah, so I'm going to go Edge and Beth Phoenix as well. But at plus 300, it's not bad odds that maybe Dom gets involved and wins it for him.
All right, two more matches. One, I don't know that we need to see again, although it shouldn't be as entertaining as it is. But Bobby Lashley versus Brock Lesnar.
I don't know what the hell you're talking about.
It's still pretty.
It's fun.
How many times these guys fought each other?
I don't care. Here's the thing. This is one thing I kind of separate myself from a lot of other wrestling fans. A lot of wrestling fans are like, I don't want to see the match over and over and over. I do if it's entertaining as hell. And these two dudes get after it, right? Bobby Lashley and Brock Lesnar are two guys that have shown that if you're good, we will work some shoot.
Yeah, that right? On the ramp stuff that looked great. Real and looked like that hurt.
They are both willing to work some shoot fights into the wrestling match, and that always gives it an element of brutality that makes the match better. If these two dudes get a fight forever chant, I'd be good with it as long as they keep bringing it, and they have been.
All right, and finally, the Usos supposedly are going to be at home watching on TV. The real reason is because they can't go to Canada because of previous arrests. Sammy versus he who needs to be acknowledged. The question, could they really have Roman Reigns lose to Sammy? The only way I see this happening.
Can I make my argument before you give your answer?
I was going to, I was just going to.
Oh, I thought you were going to give the answer.
No. I was going to say the only way it's going to be, it would have to be interference. It can't be a straight up. But what if Cody helped Sammy win? Is that too much against his character to come out there and help?
Yes, I think it is.
All right.
A couple of things. Here's my thought. The main conversation has primarily been, is it time to split the belts back up? This is a perfect opportunity to do it, right? This is a perfect opportunity for a couple of reasons. Number one, Sami Zayn is white hot. White hot.
Even though a member of my family wouldn't let him out into traffic, but
white hot. When Zayn came into that ring and put that spear down on Roman in Greenville a couple of weeks ago, it was the loudest the building was all night, and it was a good crowd, okay? White hot, having him win, and I'm not saying win clean, I'm just saying win. Just go over Roman and take a belt out of there. By the way, where's this match taking place? Canada, where Sami Zayn is from. So you're going to get a few things. Number one, you are going to get the definite pop of the year if Sami Zayn wins a belt. Number two,
is it more shocking than Brock going over Undertaker?
It's a different reaction, right? Like Brock was the heel, even though he wasn't. Brock was the heel in that match. Sami Zayn is, I would say, Zoe, and I feel confident saying it, Sami Zayn is the most over babyface since Daniel Bryan's run to WrestleMania 30, right? Since the Yes Movement versus the Authority at 30. This is the most over babyface we've had. So if Zayn wins this thing, whether it's an interference or not, because you talk about Cody, listen, the Usos are not allowed in Canada because of their DUI issues, right? And I got no problem with that at all. But there's also the possibility that WWE greased the right hands and maybe got them exemption and they show up as and Solo Sikoa's out there still, right? Who is allowed to be there.
And Paul Heyman himself.
Yeah. So you've got Cody, who I don't think bringing Cody in as the American Dream son, the American Nightmare babyface, I don't think he can be involved, especially with, by the way, the best promo of 2023 was Cody Rhodes hyping up Sami Zayn. I thought that was an incredible moment.
I agree. What if Paul turns?
I don't see it. But I could see Solo coming in. I could see Cody Rhodes defending Sami Zayn from Solo Sikoa interference, and maybe it distracts Roman enough to win. But if you get a Sami Zayn win, you are going to get the pop of the year. Nothing else they do the rest of the year will light it up the way that Sami winning a belt in Canada will do. It splits up the belt. It allows Cody to then have the opportunity. Do I want Sami's belt or do I want Roman's? And it lets you start a Roman feud with Jey Uso for WrestleMania. That's why I think it's a possibility. That being said, Vegas has Sami Zayn at plus 400 and Roman Reigns minus 900. So acknowledge the tribal chief one more time. Let's take a break. We'll come back. We'll wrap this show up. I am Rob. He is Lonzo. And you're listening to The Rob Brown Show on the Fan Upstate, y'all.
You're right about that, James. Still say, and I will until it's proven that the screw job was a work.
I don't. I not because I don't.
You don't go punch your boss in the face and not get sued or get arrested.
I choose to suspend disbelief for wrestling. It's more fun to believe it's real. And it's just a place of who cares, right? It's more fun to pretend it was real.
I just staying by it.
Wofford defeated Mercer Wednesday night 70-67. That's after a 4-game losing skid. The Terriers moving to 14-14 on the season. They got 22 points from BJ Mack. Download the Odyssey app and search The Fan Upstate. Then listen anywhere on your phone. I'm Tony Desiri, and that's your sports flash on The Fan Upstate.
I'm Taylor Bashadi, NFL now on the Westwood One Radio Network. To the victor, go the spoils, and a Super Bowl victory party.
Thank you, James.
Celebrated their latest
started this season, the AFC West said we were rebuilding. I'm gonna be honest with you, I don't know what rebuilding means.
You were the third.
Quit buying into the narrative, Rob. Quit being that guy. Oh, well, I should be upset too because everyone else is upset. They absolutely were getting bad mouth and told that Tyreek was gone, that they're on their way down. It was.
I had a revelation the other day, and I realized that one of my, I don't know if you'd call it a pet peeve or a trigger or whatever you want to call it, but one of the things that aggravates me the worst in the world is when people have an unjustifiable persecution complex. Everybody's out to get me. No, they're not, Karen. No, they're not.
Really, Rob?
Yeah.
Really?
Nobody's out to get you.
This bothers you.
Yes.
I will remind you next time we have a conversation about
what persecution?
What you say?
Other than
I'm
your
getting
1%
fired.
jokes.
What do you say? I'm getting fired.
That's not a persecution complex. That's a conspiracy theory. There's a
Okay.
difference.
All right.
Persecution complex is when 85% in a room of people in a room all believe the same thing, and all of them believe that the 15% are out to tank them, and they just don't have any power in the situation.
Well,
it's like, dude,
Michael Jordan had to make up his own enemies. So I mean,
100%.
But I think it's funny.
And there's a lot of people
that
who don't like
if I recall, even you said that the Chiefs were going to struggle
this year as they were last year. I say no.
They're better this year than they were last year.
I disagree completely.
Absolutely. Offensively, have you seen the numbers that Mahomes put up?
I think they were more well-rounded offensively this
year.
Oh,
they were definitely better, without a doubt. They didn't have someone going, throw me the ball, throw me the ball. Why don't you throw me the ball? Hey, throw me the ball, throw me the ball. All they've been talking about is how statistically better they were this year. Definitely a better team. No one picked them to go 0-17. People picked them to not win the AFC West, though. Something they have now done 5 times, 5 times, 5 times, 5 times, 5 times.
How many times?
Multiple. They weren't the number 1 seed at the beginning of the year, James. Hey, if you want to make them the most hated team in the NFL, I'm good with that. Alonzo realized he hasn't done anything over here. Oh boy. So I'll do that in a minute. Yes, Kevin, we know that. And that's not how you spell heel. It is, but, wrong context. All right, let's see if I can scrape up enough voice to make it through this final segment. Time for Twitter trending topics where I tell Rob what's trending. He tells us why it is trending. The first thing that is trending is John Jones.
John Bones Jones, trending because either people are ready for his fight or he got busted with a big bag of drugs trying to punch a young lady again.
No, that hasn't happened. Okay. He actually has told Cormier that it's okay for him to announce his match because Cormier does pretty good at that job.
They butted heads for a
hot minute. No, they still are.
Oh, they
still are. Yeah, that's never ended. Okay. Yeah. Making fun of him because he cried. And there's a lot of things. And did he lose to John Jones? Absolutely he did. But yeah, they've won at it a bunch. All right, the next thing that's trending is Kevin Love.
What would John Bones Jones be if he kept his head together away from the octagon?
The best of all
GOAT,
time.
right?
Yes.
The GOAT, hands down. All right, LeBron.
No. I said Kevin Love.
Oh, Kevin Love. Kevin Love is, I thought you said LeBron. I don't know why. Kevin Love is trending because despite all of the Kevin Love between he and his Cleveland Cavaliers, Kevin Love has been bought out by the Cleveland Cavaliers and is no longer a member of that basketball team. It is now rumored that the Miami Heat are making a run at adding Kevin Love to their roster moving forward. And you can say what you want, but I can't imagine this does anything but disappoint Lonzo greatly.
Well, yeah, because I wanted to go to LA so I could see those long passes to LeBron. No one threw passes to LeBron like Kevin Love did.
Joe Montana was a quarterback.
You know, taking it out underneath the basket, throwing it all the way down the court to LeBron. That happened so many times. It was amazing.
Kevin Love is just like, if you like fundamental basketball with the occasional spark, Kevin Love's your guy.
Yeah,
I respect the hell out of that.
When he's healthy, he's pretty consistent. He also is getting older. All right.
If Anthony Davis had Kevin Love's mentality, the Lakers would be unstoppable. And oh, by the way, they beat the ever-loving bleep out of my Pelicans last night. I stayed up till 12:30 this morning watching New Orleans try to put LA a game further away from the play-in, and we got freaking rocked. And what did they spend the entire third quarter doing, Lonzo? Zion's out for like 6 more weeks, everybody. Yeah, we know. I know. Stop telling me.
I didn't know that. Thank you for telling me that.
Were you going to do Skynet next?
No, I wasn't putting that on.
Oh, because Skynet's trending.
I mean, there were other things. Yeah, I'm not playing into their hands.
Conspiracy. All right, that's it for us. Ladies and gentlemen, we're out of here. Jim Rome takes you into the jungle next. Mark and Diesel will be here for Offsides starting at 3. We are on a 21-hour break, and when we come back, we put the week to bed tomorrow on a Friday edition of The Rob Brown Show right here on the Fan Upstate. Later, brother. All right, dudes and dudettes, you're all amazing people. Thank you very much for hanging out with us. We appreciate it greatly, and we will see you back here tomorrow. Have a lovely Thursday. If you're at the Judd's concert tonight, come find me. I'll be playing Secret Cowboy. See you there.
Yeah, and I'll be seeing Ant-Man.
Fair enough. Adios.